Chapter 737. Han Fei had never known what it felt like to be resurrected with the immortal seal. He didn't know until this moment when he used it. At that moment, he found that he didn't create a new version of himself. Instead, at the moment of his death, a terrifying force forcefully pulled his body into an empty space. The body that was shattered outside was actually not his original body, but a power of the immortal seal, which was equivalent to a death substitution technique. However, although Han Fei used the immortal seal to die in his place, little Fatty was really shattered. Han Fei saw a gate in the chaos and void. He knew that he would be reborn if he walked out of it. He had to walk out of it. This was because there was a powerful suction force there that was forcefully pulling him out. Also, his whole plan had never been for himself. When Han Fei reappeared, Chen Huangdian was looking at him with a smile. In fact, it's easy to crack this death substitution technique. However, since you want a fight, I'll satisfy you. Do you have any other methods? For example, a naturally endowed spiritual beast. Han Fei said calmly, my naturally endowed spiritual beast is a spirit-swallowing fish. It doesn't have any combat ability. Let's launch the final attack. Having experienced the feeling of death once, Han Fei knew that he might really die this time. Buzz buzz buzz, the golden fist mark was condensed, and Han Fei's essence blood was burning. It was extremely brilliant. However, there was a hint of disappointment in Chen Huangdian's eyes. However, on second thought, he realized that it did make sense. It was already remarkable that Han Fei could become so strong in this desolate land. It would be too much to ask him to be like the real peerless heavenly talents. Chen Huangdian chuckled. Goodbye. He performed the Howren finger out of nowhere. When Chen Huangdian pointed his finger, Han Fei looked at Xia Shaochan and said, trust me. Bam! Boom! Han Fei was ready to embrace death, when he suddenly saw the illusion of a giant hand that seemed to have burst out of his body. Han Fei had seen the giant hand before. Old Bai had once used this trick when he attacked. Immediately, Han Fei realized what was going on. They didn't know when Old Bai had secretly planted a dying strike in their bodies. The reason why he didn't tell them was that he was afraid that they wouldn't be afraid. However, even when he saw this big hand phantom, he didn't feel excited at all. He knew that his attack still couldn't block Chen Huangdian's attack. As he expected, Chen Huangdian put on a disdainful smile. An explorer-level protection. It seems that this desolate land isn't too desolate after all. Unfortunately, even if your main body was here, you wouldn't be able to protect this child. Bang! Having recovered his strength, Chen Huangdian no longer suppressed his level. He pressed his finger, and Old Bai's grand void handprint exploded. However, it was still an explorer-level handprint. Chen Huangdian's attack was basically blocked, but part of its power still leaked out. Han Fei wondered if this person was an explorer. Han Fei didn't know that in fact, the person in front of him was just a soul brand. However, the last bit of power still shattered half of Han Fei's body. Half of Han Fei's chest was torn apart, and he fell into the pool of spirit awakening fluid. At that moment, Han Fei thought that waiting for death didn't feel good at all. Ah! Cicada, when Han Fei really died, Xia Shaochan went crazy. The heavenly cicada floated above her head and burst out a weird power, freeing herself from the shackles. The terrifying power made Chen Huangdian step back. He could only squint at Xia Shaochan and mumble, it's indeed worth looking forward to. Xia Shaochan threw herself before Han Fei, sobbing so hard that she was barely recognizable. In Xia Shaochan's eyes, Han Fei was comforting her. She felt that Han Fei had used all his trump cards. He had used everything that she could and didn't expect. At this moment, Han Fei was lying on the ground without any vitality. His body had mostly collapsed. How could he still be alive? Xia Shaochan turned around quickly. Save him. Save him. I want to take him with me. Please. Chen Huangdian saw it, but he was not moved at all. He simply said casually, you can't save a completely dead person. Even if you can reverse time, you'll have to pay a heavy price. Besides, I'm not capable of that. Knowing that her words were useless, Xia Xiaochan's eyes were bloodshot. You have to kill me too. Otherwise, I'll definitely kill you in the future. Chen Huangdian shrugged. Of course, as long as you like it, little princess. Then, you can settle the score with me when you're strong enough to kill me. Now, I don't have much time left. It's time to go. To find Xia Xiaochan, Chen Huangdian paid a price too. His original body was still in the boundless ocean. At this moment, there was no telling how he reached this place. But thinking about it, being able to traverse billions of territories definitely wasn't something that came without a price. At this moment, Xia Xiaochan was full of helplessness. Sad. She couldn't even be described as sad anymore. Her mind was sinking, and her soul was breaking. The only thing that Xia Xiaochan could do was to hold on to Han Fei's broken body. Chen Huangdian tilted his head and said softly, "Take one last look at him. Time to go." No. As a teardrop fell out of Xia Xiaochan's eyes, her body had been forcibly clasped and disappeared in the sea that seemed to be enshrouded by death. However, even Chen Huangdian didn't notice it. The teardrop, glittering in the dark seawater, fell next to Han Fei and didn't disperse. Instead, it condensed into a drop of water with a faint blue color. Old Jiang was fiddling with his sugar and trying to make braised pork at this moment. He ignored the earth-shattering sound of the heavenly cicada a moment ago because he couldn't. Crack. At this moment, the fragrance of the braised pork was already filling his nose. Suddenly, with a soft noise, old Jiang's hands suddenly stopped. Han Fei's life tablet was broken. Hum. In the twisted jungle, a soaring killing intent surged into the sky. In the sky, an unparalleled array suddenly appeared. Who did it? The moment the twisted jungle broke out, dozens of figures in the transverse mountain, the depths of the twisted jungle, and the central city of the scattered stars island came to the twisted jungle in a few steps. Led by Shueishenqi, he looked at old Jiang and asked, "Master Jiang, why are you so angry?" At this moment, old Jiang glanced at the people around him coldly. "I'm going to see. Whoever dares to stop me, don't blame me for being ruthless." While everybody was paying attention to old Jiang, on the 4th floor of the Scattered Stars prison, a person disappeared from the 4th floor as if he had teleported, never to be seen again. In the twisted jungle. Shueishenqi narrowed his eyes. He knew that something big must have happened. First, there were the 3 cries of silkworms, and then old Jiang suddenly burst out. Was there something he didn't know? Also, what were the 3 cries of silkworms? Where did they come from? Was it related to the Thug Academy? At this moment, old Jiang was furious to the extreme. From his point of view, this was something that was almost impossible. How could Han Fei die? When old Bai gave him the life tablets of the 5 prisoners, he clearly told him that he had set up a dying strike in each of them. Even though Han Fei couldn't fight back at all under certain circumstances, was old Bai's dying strike a joke? When explorers took action, who around the Scattered Stars Island could defeat them in a short time? But just now, it happened almost instantly. Even he didn't sense it, and Han Fei died. What did it mean? It was a full-strength strike of at least an explorer. Only by shattering old Bai's seal in an instant could it be done. However, how many people on the Scattered Stars Island, or even the Thousand Star City, could do that? While the twisted jungle was in chaos, and Shueishenqi was thinking about how to talk to old Jiang, a boat flew close quickly from the sky. The newcomer's strength was also not weak. He was an 8-star expert. He had no time to care about what was happening in the twisted jungle. At this moment, the man said in panic, "General, the sea demon mountain is gone." Shueishenqi. Old Jiang. Everyone. Shueishenqi frowned. Don't panic. What do you mean by the sea demon mountain is gone? You mean the sea demon mountain 130,000 kilometers away from the Scattered Stars Island? What happened? The 8-star expert said weirdly, "It's really gone. The Sea Demon Mountain that spanned more than 800 kilometers has been completely uprooted. It's nowhere to be found." Shueishenqi staggered. "What did you say?" Old Jiang and the other experts were shocked too. What was going on? A mountain that spanned more than 800 kilometers had been uprooted? Everybody looked at each other in bewilderment. This was just too fucking ridiculous. That was equivalent to half of the Scattered Stars Island. It had been uprooted. Was it a joke? Shueishenqi looked at old Jiang. "Mr. Jiang, shall we go and take a look?" A moment later, Shueishenqi and old Jiang looked at the desolate, messy bottom of the sea in shock. There was not a single sea demon around. However, they sensed that a tremendous number of sea demons had perished here. But what kind of power could cause so many sea demons to fall in an instant? Even their bodies couldn't survive. Shueishenqi said solemnly, "They were indeed uprooted by force." Immediately, Shueishenqi's face changed. "Everybody, search within 500,000 kilometers." Old Jiang, on the other hand, looked cold. What secret was Old Bai hiding? Naturally, he had heard the 3 cries of the silkworm earlier. However, he didn't think that it was Han Fei. But at this moment, it must be related to Han Fei. If it wasn't Han Fei, it had to be Xia Shaochan. So, a question popped up in old Zhang's heart. Who was Xia Shaochan exactly? Second update. Asking for votes. 3,000 plus, end of this chapter. Chapter 738. The Scattered Stars Island was fine. Except for old Jiang who went to sea, Shueishenqi only activated level 1 alert to ensure that the Scattered Stars Island would be in a state of war at any time. Of course, the so-called state of war was only against the sea demons. However, everybody knew that the Sea Demon Mountain couldn't have been moved away by just defending against the sea demons. Shueishenqi even suspected that a venerable expert had arrived. However, what puzzled everybody was why the man moved the Sea Demon Mountain away. The sea demons were even more panicked than the human beings. There were many sea demons' territories around the Scattered Stars Island. The sea demons began to hide the moment they learned the news. They had to hide. The entire Sea Demon Mountain was razed to the ground overnight. 16 sea demons at the level of hidden fissures had died. One sea demon above level 60, a powerful sea spirit, perished. Countless other sea demons were killed and wounded, which scared the rest of the sea demons. 1,000,000 kilometers away from the Scattered Stars Island, there was an enormous cylindrical building where many powerful sea demons were having a meeting. The meeting had been going on for 3 days. In the city, inside an undersea volcano, some people were riding enormous war seahorses, some were riding red lobsters, and some were standing on jellyfish that were glittering with lightning. They were all arguing. A half-mermaid roared, "It must be a human expert who took action. How can we just sit and watch? We must ask the capital to send a top expert to fight them." Someone was more conservative. Human beings. Which human being can move the Sea Demon Mountain? If such an expert were to take action, the Sea Demon Mountain wouldn't have been destroyed. Chances are that even this place would have been razed to the ground. If it's not a human being, who is it? I don't think it's a good time to take action. If it's a human being, all the sea demons should stay away from the danger and observe what the human beings will do next. If there's a follow-up, the capital won't let it go. Who? Shut up, all of you. Someone rode an enormous 2-headed shark. I hereby announce that the large-scale war with human beings will be suspended. The destruction of the Sea Demon Mountain won't be a great blow, but it will be a great blow to our morale. Let's rest for a while. My lord, shut up. Someone wanted to say something, but the commander's eyes narrowed. It's not completely silent. Let's see if we can gather some opportunities. In the future, I will attack the humans. Just when the humans and the sirens had their own plans. 2,000,000 kilometers away from the Scattered Stars Island, the Sea Demon Mountain lay quietly in a trench. None of the creatures dared to approach the Sea Demon mountain range within 3,000 kilometers. The powerful aura left behind here made the surrounding living beings choose to flee immediately. The demonic barrier on the Sea Demon mountain had been broken when Chen Huangdian moved the mountain by force. At this moment, a pile of broken bodies was lying in a pool of spirit awakening fluid. Not only Han Fei, but little Fatty was also in the remains. This was Han Fei's last resort and his last trump card. Little Fatty was level 39 in the first place, and after swallowing a lot of spirit awakening fluid, it reached level 40 very quickly. He was betting that the level 49 death soul splitting octopus could be reborn from a single drop of blood, which could save his life. Judging from Chen Huangdian's attitude towards Xia Xiaochan might have a great enemy, but Chen Huangdian would protect her. That was enough. Now that Xia Xiaochan was safe, Han Fei certainly wouldn't risk his life. So, he really tried his best in the last battle. He destroyed all 200 Blue Sea Wandering Dragon daggers to give Chen Huangdian the illusion that he was risking his life. However, Han Fei didn't see little Fatty make a breakthrough. He wondered if little Fatty had the ability to be reborn from a single drop of blood after the breakthrough. He could only take a gamble. However, Han Fei seemed to have won the gamble. At this moment, in the spirit awakening fluid, Han Fei's flesh and bones began to gather from where they were scattered. There was no telling if it was because the pieces of flesh and bones were there, or if it was the power of the 9 death souls splitting octopus in the first place. In any case, it was a good thing that his body was recovering. Not just Han Fei, but little Fatty was recovering too. However, its body was even larger than Han Fei's, and it only had 1 claw left. After 7 days, the pressure that Chen Huangdian left was thinner and thinner under the baptism of the ocean. At this moment, some creatures were already within 3,000 kilometers. The most powerful creatures could already approach 2,000 kilometers. Han Fei's body had been completely reconstructed, but he didn't wake up yet. Little Fatty's body was only half recovered, but little Fatty was already alive. To be more precise, 5 of its brains were alive, and 4 of them hadn't been revived yet. Only 1 of its hearts was alive. The second one was being rescued, and the third one was still dead. The octopus was undoubtedly the most terrifying among the strange creatures with 9 brains. Half a month passed. When a crab just entered the cave, a tentacle directly wrapped around it, and a huge suction cup instantly sucked the crab dry. Han Fei was still motionless. In the middle of chaos, a vine extended from the darkness, like a ray of light in the darkness. The moment the vine appeared, Han Fei's consciousness returned. A lot of pictures flashed in Han Fei's head. Cough. Han Fei suddenly opened his eyes and sat up. The first thing he saw was the remains of a lot of creatures, as well as little Fatty that was sucking a lobster with its suckers. Seeing that Han Fei sat up, little Fatty looked at him with its big eyes. You're awake. Still in shock, Han Fei looked at little Fatty in shock. I've been resurrected. Then, information popped up in Han Fei's eyes. Name a 9 death soul splitting octopus. Introduction: an ancient species with a feeble bloodline of a divine beast. Its suckers can absorb spiritual energy, and essence blood. The 9 death soul splitting octopus has a high spiritual power. It can ignore the mental attacks of all creatures within 10 levels of itself. It's also very strong and can deflect 90% of the attacks. It also has a super self-healing ability. Level 40 Equality: a legendary, upgradable, spiritual energy S6002 Food: a carnivorous, prefers shrimps and crabs. Battle technique: limb regeneration, blood rebirth. Note: this is a battle technique shared by the host and the 9 death soul splitting octopus. It can only be used 9 times in a lifetime. Han Fei took a deep breath. How long have I been dead? Little Fatty, Han Fei was probably the first person in the world to ask such a casual question, as if he were asking someone how long he had been asleep. Little Fatty said, "It's been the 21st day since I woke up." Han Fei narrowed his eyes. Not bad. Not bad. Chen Huangdian must have taken Xia Shaochan away a long time ago. Han Fei couldn't help but feel lucky. Thankfully, little Fatty's blood rebirth wasn't a lightning resurrection after death. Otherwise, he would have been killed again. However, Han Fei's heart immediately grew heavy. Xia Shaochan had been taken away. What should he say when he returned? That Xia Shaochan had been taken away. That there was a super expert as terrifying as Chen Huangdian in this world? That such an expert hadn't killed him yet? Han Fei felt that it was rather ridiculous. For the first time in his life, he realized that a person could be so strong. It turned out that a mountain could be easily moved away. It turned out that he wasn't a heavenly talent at all. Han Fei wasn't an idiot. When he fought Chen Huangdian, he clearly sensed that Chen Huangdian had been using the power of an intermediate hanging fisher the whole time. Nothing more, nothing less. As it turned out, the combat techniques and ultimate moves that he was proud of were only qualified to be called a heavenly talent by Chen Huangdian in the end. Han Fei didn't complain. It wasn't easy for him to be alive. Although Xia Shaochan had been taken away, it was a good thing that she had been taken away. Otherwise, other experts would have come to search for her or even hunt her down after the heavenly cicada's 3 earth-shaking shrieks. From Chen Huangdian's tone, it seemed that killing him was necessary. What was he worried about? Was he worried that other people would learn about Xia Shaochan from him? At this moment, 20 days had passed. It might have been a month. Nobody seemed to be coming. However, Han Fei felt that they would come sooner or later. How could he resist them if they did come? If they were all as strong as Chen Huangdian, not to mention resisting them, even the entire Thug Academy might not be enough. Therefore, Han Fei had 2 top priorities, to hide himself, and to improve his strength. While Han Fei was thinking, a glitter suddenly flashed in his eyes. As he turned his head, he found that it was a light blue drop of water. Information popped up in his eyes. Name: a mermaid's tear. Introduction: this is a legendary item of longevity. It's the tear of mermaids and mermen when they're in extreme sorrow. It's neither metal nor stone, and it contains the will of the world and gives birth to terrifying vitality. Note: eternal love can't be destroyed. Seeing the tear, Han Fei's heart was heavy, and an inexplicable sadness took over his heart. He. Chen Huangdian. 3rd watch. Asking for votes. Actually, it's already the 4th watch. It's already past midnight. Description: don't think that this kind of thing is just a joke. It's just an old routine. There's no such thing as a coincidence. The main thing is how it's written. Trust me, it's not what you think. As for the great calamity, take a guess. End of this chapter. Chapter 739. Chen Huangdian's formidability was deeply imprinted in Han Fei's heart. Han Fei had reason to believe that this person was the most terrifying and talented of all the people he had ever met. Outside the cave, there would still be creatures coming in, but Han Fei didn't care. He sat in the cave for a full 2 hours. He had always felt that the demon purification pot, the ability to deduce countless cultivation techniques, and the ability to enter forge the universe seemed to be his trump card, but now, looking at the demon purification pot that had returned to his head, he finally realized that trump cards were only relative. Only one's own strength was absolute. Crack. The spiritual energy in Han Fei's body flowed backward in an instant, and he became an advanced hanging fisher in 1 step. There were less than 10,000 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid left at his feet. Little Fatty had eaten 5,000 kilograms, and there was less than 5,000 kilograms left. Han Fei didn't stand on ceremony and simply swallowed it into his body like a whale. A moment later, a message appeared. Owner: Han Fei level 48, advanced hanging fisher, spiritual energy 1060055-15369, spirit 1912 perception 19,999 meters, spiritual heritage LV5, high grade, spiritual beast, twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fish, Level 40, Main Art, Void Breaking Technique, Volume 4 of Void Fishing, Demon Level, Divine Quality. When he saw this message, Han Fei was expressionless. Less than 5,000 kilograms of spirit awakening fluid was no longer enough to meet his needs. Han Fei found that the spirit awakening fluid might be of great use. It could help ordinary fishermen awaken their spiritual beasts, help ordinary people cleanse their bodies, and enhance their potential. However, as he grew stronger, he needed more and more spirit awakening fluid. This was probably why the experts of the Scattered Stars Island sold the spirit awakening fluid in the logistics division. Han Fei seemed to be enlightened. If he wanted to become a peak-level hanging fisher with the spirit awakening fluid, he would need at least 30,000 caddies. What if his spiritual meridian improved? What if the starless body broke through again? In that case, he would need more spirit awakening fluid. For example, how much spirit awakening fluid did Xia Shaochan consume to awaken the heavenly cicada? It must be at least 60 to 70,000 jin, or 70 to 80,000 jin. That was when Xia Shaochan was only an intermediate hanging fisher. Han Fei looked inside himself. The seed had calmed down, and so had the demonic essence. Han Fei believed that neither of them would be of much use if he didn't learn the true spirit demonic scripture. After all, no matter how powerful these two were, they were still absorbing demonic qi. At the very least, he couldn't use them for now. It seems that it's time to deduce the Thousand Faces technique and void fishing art. Han Fei even put the deduction of the Thousand Faces technique before the void fishing art. He guessed that if he used a disguise technique like appearance-changing technique again, would his aura be hidden as well? After all, for Xia Shaochan's safety and his own, Han Fei had to make such a plan. Let's go out. Han Fei looked at Little Fatty calmly and said casually. Little Fatty was rather indifferent. There are powerful creatures outside. With a thought, Han Fei put away Little Fatty. The next moment, he was already standing at the entrance of the cavern. He released his senses and found countless creatures within 40 kilometers. He didn't even need to see with his naked eyes to see that there were more than 30 level 49 creatures within 1,000 meters. 2 of them were exotic creatures. Most of them were crabs, earth-drilling worms, and lobsters. At this moment, they were all digging holes. Why were they digging holes? Naturally, it was because a lot of spiritual stones were hidden in the Sea Demon Mountain. Earlier, Han Fei didn't dare to dig out the spiritual stones due to the large number of half-mermaids and half-mermaids, so he didn't get many spiritual stones. But now, half of the mountain had been torn apart by Chun Huangdian. Half of the mountain had been uprooted, and a lot of regular spiritual stones were scattered. Naturally, Chun Huangdian wasn't interested in those things. However, the other creatures in the sea didn't despise them. Naturally, Han Fei didn't despise them either. However, after such a long time, they must have all been dug out, right? Hiu. The 2 tentacles left 2 white marks in the water like 2 whips. The enemy was trying to kill Han Fei. Han Fei sneered. Without looking, he punched casually, and a golden fist aura was blown hundreds of meters away. Not only was the long-haired lobster shattered, but a black fish was also shattered by the punch. If the people on the Scattered Stars Island saw that, they would have exclaimed in shock, as those 2 were level 49 creatures. He had actually been killed by a single punch. Han Fei had a deeper understanding of the art of invincibility during the battle against Chun Huangdian. It was mainly because Chun Huangdian was too invincible, and Han Fei intended to fake his death, so he wasn't scared of death at all. At the critical moment, when Han Fei punched the art of invincibility for the last time, he knew that the art of invincibility had made significant progress. In that battle, Han Fei felt that his art of invincibility wasn't very good, but it wasn't far from it. Not to mention killing a level 49 creature with 1 punch, Han Fei didn't think it would be a problem for him to kill a level 49 half-mermaid with 1 punch. There was no telling where the Sea Demon Mountain had been moved to. With a thought, Han Fei summoned Little Gold, the 9-tailed mantis shrimp, Little Black, and Little White. They had all changed their appearances. A series of information popped up in his eyes. Name a twin yin-yang spirit-swallowing fish. Introduction. This is a descendant of the mysterious primeval yin-yang sky-swallowing fish. The black and white fish live together. The white fish is docile, and the black fish is brutal. They are symbiotic. As long as one of them survives, the other won't die. Level 40 Equality. A mysterious is stored spiritual energy greater than 10 million points. Food omnivorous. It can swallow anything. Battle technique. Supreme yin-yang wheel, spirit swallowing body. Note, the black fish can't be seen. Except for the master, only the yin-yang divine eyes born by nature can see it. After the fusion, its combat ability will be as high as a divine weapon's. Stored soul energy greater than 1,245 points. Han Fei frowned after seeing Little Black and Little White. They didn't have any special heritages. Their sizes didn't change at all. However, Little Black was even purer, as if he had turned into nothingness. There was even a vague layer of spiritual energy on Little White's body. Through the eyes of true vision, Han Fei saw that spiritual energy was slowly gathering into Little White's body. It meant that Little White could absorb spiritual energy all the time without doing anything. Is this the spirit-swallowing body? This passive skill doesn't seem to be very useful. Han Fei thought, Little White's speed of absorbing spiritual energy is even slower than a small spirit-gathering circle. Did it awaken this skill when it reached level 40? On the other hand, the nine-tailed mantis shrimp had changed a lot. Named a nine-tailed mantis shrimp. Introduction. A mutant mantis shrimp, with fast speed and strong attack ability. It is good at hiding itself and sneaking up on prey. When it grows into its complete form, its 9 tails will turn into 9 divine chains and it will be extremely powerful. Level 40 Equality. A legendary stored spiritual energy greater than 5,026 points. Food omnivorous, prefers shrimps. Battle technique. Void chain. Note, current state, 9 tails. Han Fei pointed at a wolf crab that was swooping at him and glanced at the 9-tailed mantis shrimp. Kill it with the void chain. Swish. Swish. Han Fei saw that the 9-star chain seemed to have penetrated the void and appeared from 100 meters away. The 9 chains formed a net, which seemed to be a taboo law born from nothingness, trapping the wolf crab. The chains shuttled and slid in the void, fastening the wolf crab tighter and tighter. At the beginning, the wolf crab could still launch attacks, and its pincers and thorns could burst out to attack the chains. Then, as if the chains had eyes, they appeared from another place in the void and fastened its pincers. Crack. Crack. Although there was a huge gap between the two in levels, the 9-tailed mantis shrimp's void chain completely suppressed the enemy's attack. As the chains contracted crazily, it only took about 5 minutes to strangle a level 49 wolf crab. Seeing this scene, Han Fei was very satisfied. He should be quite far away from the Scattered Stars Island, so even if he encountered ordinary creatures, there were many level 49 creatures. Although the 9-tailed mantis shrimp was a bit slow, it deserved to be a legendary creature. Besides, after the transformation, it was no longer an ordinary chain, but countless chains. Then he looked at Little Gold. Name a feather god ray. Introduction. An ancient exotic species that belongs to the flying fish family. It has wings and feet that are as sharp as blades and can break gold and stones. The feather god ray can fly in the sky and dive into the sea. Its speed is extremely fast, and its head is as hard as a mountain. When it grows into its complete form, it can gather the power of heavenly thunder. Level 40 Equality. A legendary, ultra quality, contains spiritual energy. 5,806 Food. A carnivorous, prefers large fish. Battle technique. Lightning blade, can only be used once a day. Remarks. A current status, growth period. Han Fei couldn't help but be suspicious. In summary, it seemed that only Little Gold had a new battle technique. Han Fei said, Little Gold, kill that weird horseshoe worm with the lightning blade. In front of Han Fei, a swarm of red horseshoe worms was charging at him. The horn on Little Gold's head flickered with lightning. The bright lightning condensed into a dazzling light. Hula. A huge electric arc machete 30 meters long suddenly slashed out more than 600 meters. All the creatures along the way were cut in half. Also, they were entangled by electric arcs. To Han Fei's astonishment, Little Gold's attack smashed as many as 30 horseshoe worms and more than 20 other creatures. Wow! What a powerful battle technique! First update. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 740. Han Fei was shocked by Little Gold's lightning blade. In addition to having a hard head, Little Gold only had the advantage of being fast. But the appearance of this lightning blade directly raised Little Gold's combat power to a higher level. If Xiao Chen caught someone off guard and used this move, its might would be even stronger than Xiao Chen's drawing the saber at full power. It was a pity that such an amazing skill could only be used once a day. Therefore, in a real battle, the lightning blade could only be used as a trump card and could only be used as a last resort. Obviously, Han Fei didn't intend to let them fight against thousands of high-level sea creatures. After all, Little Gold and the others were still a little far behind these creatures. A short burst of energy was meaningless in the face of such a large number of creatures. So Han Fei put away Little Gold. Attach. The nine-tailed mantis shrimp and Little Fatty attached to him, and Han Fei's aura directly rose to the level of a peak-level hanging fisher. Han Fei felt as if he had become a fierce beast full of power. Looking at the creatures rushing over, there was only fanaticism and hostility left in his heart. Boom! The art of invincibility was activated, and an arrow heart shell was blown through by Han Fei. Qilu. A huge electric current surged through Han Fei's body, causing his blood to boil and his flesh to go numb. Boom, boom, boom. It was an exotic creature, a lamprey. Han Fei didn't hold back at all, and the art of invincibility shone brightly. Han Fei was like a murderer standing on the top of a mountain, and from all directions, a huge number of enemies were surging over. Those creatures who were still digging holes and looking for spiritual stones, attracted by the blood and the vibration, also swarmed over. Han Fei's eyes were fierce. As far as he was concerned, all of these living beings were spiritual energy. Kill. 3 days later. In the body of a big fish more than 80 meters long, golden light burst out, and countless fist marks blasted out of the big fish, leaving a horrifying bloody hole. Bam! A figure covered in blood crawled out of the bloody hole, full of murderous intent. Han Fei had been fighting for 3 days in a row. After fighting for 3 whole days, his killing intent finally subsided. At this time, he really couldn't fight anymore. Otherwise, Han Fei wouldn't have been swallowed by the fish. Looking at this big fish that had no spiritual energy at all, Han Fei spat, swam forward for more than 500 kilometers, disappeared, and reappeared in Forge the Universe. After 3 days of killing, Han Fei had killed no less than 5,000 sea creatures. At this moment, Forge the Universe was almost full. The good thing was that Han Fei absorbed about 30 million points of spiritual energy. In addition to his own 5 million points, he had 35 million points. At this time, he should have enough spiritual energy to deduce the Thousand Faces technique. He put the Thousand Faces technique first because he desperately wanted to hide his aura. Otherwise, if the crisis that Chen Huangdian mentioned came, he would probably still be killed. Deduce. After 1 million points of spiritual energy, the Thousand Faces technique became a heaven-level, low-quality Thousand Illusions technique. Han Fei didn't think illusion was enough. With 5 million points of spiritual energy, the Thousand Illusion technique became the heaven-level, high-quality Phantom Spirit treasure record. It was still an illusion technique, but it could disguise one's height, weight, and breath. Unfortunately, Han Fei felt that it was still not good enough. If a powerful sea demon popped up in the deep sea, the illusion technique might not be able to confuse it. After 10 million points of spiritual energy, the Phantom Spirit treasure record became the heaven-level, divine quality 3 transformation wondrous book. After further deduction, the spiritual energy became 50 million points, and Han Fei couldn't deduce anymore. However, the 3 Transformation Wondrous Book was enough. Han Fei glanced at it in shock. A string of information popped up: 3 Transformation Wondrous Book, Heaven Level, Divine Quality. Note, this is a wonder of observing the evolution of creatures. It has the ability of Phantom Spirit 1000 changes. There are 3 ways to evolve and mutate, which can perfectly deduce the 3 creatures and simulate their breaths. It will take 7 days after the mutation before it can undergo another mutation. Shortcoming 1, the mutation process is quite painful. It's easy to expose the aura of the original body in a life and death situation. Shortcoming 2, the progress is very slow when practicing the sea demon arts or combat techniques. Shortcoming 3, the 3 Transformation Wondrous Book doesn't contain the language of sea demons. Mutated creatures, regular sea demons, red demons, half mermaids. Deduced art, unknown deduction cost, 0/50,000,000. When he saw the news, Han Fei gasped. He had always thought that the fish transformation technique was the right way to turn a human into a demon. However, after spending billions of dollars, he found that it seemed to be a path of cultivation. However, Han Fei didn't expect that he would accidentally deduce the 3 Transformation Wondrous Book from the 1000 Faces technique and that he could directly turn into a sea demon. It was completely beyond Han Fei's expectation. But on second thought, Han Fei was stunned. Who said that it was harder for a human to turn into a sea demon than it was for a human to turn into a fish? An epiphany flashed in Han Fei's head. He had been influenced by the fish transformation technique for a long time and seemed to have been misguided. Once, Han Fei thought that fish would turn into sea demons after a human turned into a fish. But on second thought, he realized that the difference between a human and a fish was much greater than the difference between a human and a sea demon. Then, it should be easier for a human to turn into a sea demon, but more difficult for a human to turn into a fish or other creatures, right? Thinking of this, Han Fei instantly understood. No wonder the fish transformation technique was still a way for a living creature to turn into a demon, not a way for a human to turn into a demon. In fact, between human beings and the fish transformation technique, there should be a technique similar to the 3 Transformation Wondrous Book. You had to turn yourself into a sea demon or a marine creature before you could practice the top techniques such as the True Spirit Demonic Scripture and the Demon Heritage Divine Technique. Han Fei was rather shocked. If he followed such a process, he should be able to turn into a pure sea demon after deducing the 3 Transformation Wondrous Book again. By then, the drawbacks of cultivation would be solved. He could also be like a sea demon and normally practice the sea demon's cultivation methods and combat skills. Han Fei couldn't help but be tempted. Therefore, the human personification technique and the demon spirit transformation were purely techniques for sea demons to turn into human beings. The 3 Transformation Wondrous Book, on the other hand, was a technique for human beings to transform into sea demons. As it turned out, the method to turn into a sea demon had always been with him. Looking at the remaining 19 million points of spiritual energy, Han Fei couldn't help but frown. He didn't have enough spiritual energy. Now, there was still a long way to go before he could reach 50 million points of spiritual energy. Han Fei didn't have such a feeling before. After all, he had plenty of spiritual fruits, spiritual spring, and spiritual stones. As a result, he lost most of his possessions on this trip. The blue sea wandering dragon daggers were gone, the blood-drinking knife was gone, his spiritual energy was gone, he didn't have any spirit awakening fluid, and Xia Shaochan was forcibly taken away. Except for the slight improvement in his strength, Han Fei felt that he hadn't accomplished any of the things he wanted to do. Son of a bitch. Han Fei cursed and looked at the 3 Transformation Wondrous Book. Will it be easier for me to travel in the sea if I become an inferior manfish? I can change back in 7 days anyway. If worst comes to worst, I'll just change back. Han Fei was tempted. If he became an inferior manfish, his aura would be gone. Nobody would have thought that he would become a sea demon from a human being, right? In such a way, even if someone came looking for him, they wouldn't be able to find him. More than an hour passed. Huh. Han Fei rolled on the ground, feeling that all the bones in his body were broken, his veins were all broken, and his flesh and blood seemed to be grinded by a millstone. Damn it! Why is it so painful? I just don't have enough spiritual energy. Huh. Han Fei felt that he had been minced into pieces. Had he known that it would be so painful, he would have saved more spiritual energy to continue deducing the 3 transformation wondrous book. Then, he would have tried to cultivate. However, it was too late now. After another half an hour, Han Fei felt that he was about to pass out from the pain. However, probably because of his strong spiritual power, Han Fei couldn't pass out at all. So, it was quite a pain in the ass for Han Fei. Who? Han Fei saw that his body had changed. A thick layer of wrinkles appeared on his body, his legs were degenerating, his hands became deformed, and webs grew on his palms. Then, Han Fei found that his breathing method had changed too. Not only could he breathe through his mouth, but under his ears, there were also 3 gill-like structures that seemed to have been cut by a knife. Han Fei grabbed a knife as a mirror and looked at himself, before he threw the knife away. Shoot! Isn't this too fucking ugly? Han Fei stood up. As a human being, Han Fei hadn't gotten used to the inferior man-fish's way of walking. Han Fei almost fell down when he stood still. Finally, Han Fei regained his balance and looked at himself up and down. His body was blue and as smooth as fish skin, and he felt disgusted when he touched it. Han Fei was lost for words. Wasn't he too different from Xia Shaochan? Although he knew that regular sea demons were ugly in the first place, Han Fei couldn't help but complain when he saw how ugly he had become. Forget it. I don't need to look in the mirror when I'm a sea demon. Han Fei didn't notice that he seemed to be slightly different from regular inferior man-fish. All in all, Han Fei only felt that he was ugly, nothing more. At this moment, Han Fei's skin was pure and glossy. For a person who had never been a siren, there was nothing special about it. As Han Fei's eyebrows moved, the 9-tailed mantis shrimp, Little Black, and Little White appeared. Little Black and Little White didn't feel anything at all. Although they were a little curious when they saw Han Fei's changed appearance, they still came over. The 9-tailed mantis shrimp looked at Han Fei for a long time and rubbed Han Fei suspiciously with its chain. Han Fei went up and kicked it. However, he didn't use his strength well. Although the inferior man-fish had legs, they were too deformed and not as useful as human legs. Therefore, the 9-tailed mantis shrimp didn't feel any pain, but Han Fei felt pain for a long time. However, the 9-tailed mantis shrimp immediately came over. His master was still the same master, and his habit of kicking the shrimp was still the same. Seeing that Little Black, Little White, and the 9-tailed mantis shrimp still recognized him, Han Fei had no worries. Then he sensed his mind and Dantian and found that the demon purification pot, the seed, the demonic energy, and the heaven spirit detoxifying insect were all there, so he was more relieved. It seemed that it was only his body that had changed. Han Fei immediately grabbed the golden seal and tried to channel spiritual energy into it. However, Han Fei found that what burst out was demonic energy, and he couldn't easily control the golden seal. Han Fei frowned. There were so many harpoons in Forge the Universe. How many half-mermaids, red demons, and inferior man-fish had been killed by him? So, there were a lot of harpoons. Han Fei grabbed a harpoon casually and activated his spiritual energy. He injected demonic energy into it and stabbed it fiercely. Ha! It's the same as using spiritual energy. It's quite easy. Second. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 741. Half a day passed. Standing on the surface of a boundless ocean, Han Fei scratched his head with his webbed paws. Where the hell was the Scattered Stars Island? Although Han Fei wasn't ready to return to the Scattered Stars Island yet, he needed a direction, right? The Sea Demon Mountain had been uprooted, and the top of the mountain had been moved far away. Han Fei summoned Little White to find the way, but Little White was lost. After all, it had never been to this place and didn't know where the way was. Han Fei bared his teeth. It seems that it's too far away. Fine, I'll stay away from the Sea Demon Mountain first. In Han Fei's eyes, the Scattered Stars Island wasn't safe. If an expert came, the Scattered Stars Island would definitely be discovered. If the other party was a murderer, it was possible that he would destroy the Scattered Stars Island. So, he couldn't go back. At the bottom of the ocean. Han Fei couldn't have felt better. As it turned out, it was quite cool to breathe with gills at the bottom of the ocean. That feeling was like a person breathing through their mouth, it was completely natural. At this moment, Han Fei was riding an exotic silver shark, not a long-snout silver shark. The silver shark was infuriated and struggling. Silver thorns burst out of its body now and then, trying to stab Han Fei. Bam! Han Fei hammered down with his fist. Calm down. You're not even a long-snout silver shark, and you dare to challenge me. Do you want to be a hot pot ingredient? Hundreds of kilometers later, Han Fei saw a golden beach at the bottom of the ocean. His intuition told him that there must be treasures down there. Immediately, Han Fei slapped the silver shark under his butt and lunged at the golden sand. He was holding a small harpoon in his hand, which looked quite decent. As Han Fei released his perception, he was overjoyed. Another spiritual fruit. Huh? I don't see any guardian creatures. Forget it. They're probably out looking for food. Han Fei dived into the golden beach. However, when he was about to pick the spiritual fruit, the golden sand moved. A sand dragon suddenly rolled up and rose like a sea serpent. In a patch of sand, Han Fei saw a golden bug. The worm was wrapped in the sand and opened its mouth that was full of tusks. Huh. This guy is pretty good at disguising himself. The sand was sliding down, as if a curtain had been lifted in the dark night. When the giant worm rolled, its body was nearly 100 meters long. In the gaps between the grains of sand, a dozen big mouths opened one after another, as if they wanted to swallow Han Fei alive. Fuck, what the hell is this? Information appeared in his eyes. Name: Golden Sandworm. Introduction. Born in the sea of sand at the bottom of the sea full of Gungjin Qi, it has an explosive personality, great strength, and wears an armor of sand. The golden sand silkworm's killing power could reach 5 million kilograms, and it could control the golden sand to fight for it. Level 52. Quality exotic. It contains spiritual energy greater than 11,302 points. Effect inedible, collectible, golden sand stone, absorbable. Han Fei was stunned. It seemed that he couldn't defeat a level 52 creature with his current inferior manfish body. Logically speaking, with Han Fei's current strength, it shouldn't be a big problem for him to fight level 52 creatures. However, Han Fei, who was holding the harpoon, twisted his body dozens of times and dodged the whip, but he was still slapped away by the golden sandworm's tail. He rolled dozens of times in the water and flew hundreds of meters away. Cough. It's really strong. Han Fei felt that his blood was boiling. After he turned into a sea demon, he seemed to have no advantage in fighting creatures of the level of hidden fissures with his body alone. Yes, the combat techniques of human beings had become experience. In order to use them with demonic chi, he had to adapt to this body. But fortunately, the golden sandworm wasn't very strong. At this moment, Han Fei wanted to see if he could use the majestic mystic spell and other combat techniques with the body of an inferior manfish. Attach. Little Fatty attached himself to Han Fei, and the effect was almost the same as when he attached himself to a human body. It was almost like a sea demon summoning a companion spirit. However, when Han Fei tried to attach himself to the nine-tailed mantis shrimp, he found that he couldn't. Huh. A sea demon can only attach itself to one contractual spiritual beast. The center of his eyebrows flashed. Little black, little white, and little gold could still appear, but the attachment wouldn't work at all. Han Fei wondered if he could still fuse with little black or little white. Whatever. Let's fight first. The golden sandworm roared, and masses of golden sand came at Han Fei from all directions. It could control the sand for its own use. Bam! The harpoon smashed across the air and the yellow sand exploded, but some of the yellow sand still stuck to Han Fei. 100 seconds later, Han Fei was covered in a layer of sand. The sand was tightening, as if it were trying to strangle Han Fei. Bam! Han Fei was slapped away by the tail again. Han Fei only felt a little dizzy after the force was removed. Damn it! How do inferior manfish fight? Poke with harpoons? Han Fei recalled that regular inferior manfish only poked with harpoons, red demons had life spears, and half-mermaids had all kinds of combat techniques. Han Fei cursed, "Worm, eat my harpoon." The blood-drinking knife was destroyed. Han Fei tried to fill the harpoon with spiritual energy and demonic chi and slashed it as a long knife. Swoosh! The weird and dominating invincible fighting intent was gathered on the harpoon. It seemed that any attack could carry the effect of the art of invincibility. Chilla! Bam! Although Han Fei was slapped away, the golden sandworm was cut into halves by Han Fei's harpoon. Huh! It was killed so easily. While Han Fei was wondering, he found that the sandworm that had been cut into halves had a new head and turned into 2 golden sandworms. Han Fei was briefly stunned and chuckled. "You must be bragging. Who do you think you are? You want to split yourself?" In his eyes, the strength of a single golden sandworm became 5 million kilograms. It meant that a new golden sandworm would have half of the strength of a golden sandworm in its prime state. Han Fei thought of something. 9-tailed mantis shrimp, void chains. The void around the 2 golden sandworms began to tremble as chains appeared one after another, trying to trap the golden sandworms within them. Unfortunately, the golden sandworms were just sand. They simply swam out of the cage of chains without any fear of the void chains. Huh! The 2 golden sandworms bit at Han Fei at the same time. Lightning blade. Chilla! Electric arcs burst out of Little Gold's head, and a terrifying blue blade cut one of the sandworms from head to tail. The sand exploded, and a cluster of thick, golden liquid spread in the seawater, only to be swallowed by the other sandworm. Han Fei looked at the other sandworm, only to find that it had a strength of 3 million kilograms. It meant that Little Gold's lightning blade must have killed half of the sandworms. Han Fei was amused by the result. The golden sandworm wasn't actually very powerful, but it looked very intimidating. In fact, they would be weaker and weaker after some of them were destroyed. Han Fei snorted. 9-tailed mantis shrimp, go grab the spiritual fruit. Don't eat it yourself. The 9-tailed mantis shrimp swooshed at the sand. The golden sandworm grew anxious. It split into half and stopped the 9-tailed mantis shrimp. Han Fei smiled again. Han Fei smiled again. Little Gold, go grab the fruit too. The golden sandworm. Han Fei simply stomped on the ground and activated the majestic mystic spell. Although he didn't know any harpoon techniques, he could still use the harpoon as a saber. Shwa! Shwa! The golden sandworm was cut in half, and the other one managed to stop Little Gold and the 9-tailed mantis shrimp. However, to the golden sandworm's shock, the spiritual fruit was gone. Han Fei extended his hand gloatingly, and Little Black spat out the spiritual fruit in midair. Name a golden fruit. Introduction. It grows in the golden sandpit and has been nurtured by the gung metal chi for a long time. It has a strong fighting spirit and a great enhancement effect. Leveled demon leveled quality high spiritual energy greater than 189,800 points. Effect, it can permanently increase one's strength by 50,000 kilograms if eaten. It's not effective for creatures above the level of hidden fissures. Han Fei's eyes glittered when he saw the quality of the golden fruit. It could permanently increase one's strength by 50,000 kilograms. This golden fruit was very powerful. It was not just 1 or 2 kilograms, but 50,000 kilograms. Bye, big guy. I can't kill you. I'll eat the fruit for you. As he spoke, Han Fei had already stuffed the golden fruit into his mouth. Why would he keep such a good thing if he didn't eat it now? After Han Fei swallowed the golden fruit, the golden sandworm went on a rampage, and the sand seemed to be reacting. However, Han Fei grinned and left the golden sandworm's shadow in the water. Defeating the golden sandworm was nothing to be proud of. It wasn't a creature that was good at fighting. Most importantly, the golden sandworm wasn't sand. It seemed infuriated, but some sand actually ran into the sand, and it was rather troublesome to find it. However, it also stimulated Han Fei's imagination. He had run into such a great thing as the golden fruit when he was wandering around. If he stayed longer in the outer sea, he could probably increase his strength by 20% just by searching for spiritual fruits. No wonder the half-mermaids and half-mermaids are so strong. The reason is that the resources in the ocean are too abundant, and they've eaten their way to the top. Another 3 days passed. Han Fei ran into a lot of creatures, some of which were so powerful that he had to run away the moment he saw them. Some of them weren't strong enough, but he could still rob them. At this moment, Han Fei was sitting on the back of the nine-tailed mantis shrimp with Needle in his hand. Why was he carrying Needle? Because he had just fought an exotic serpent. Han Fei couldn't defeat it, so he fled. Also, he didn't want to use the harpoon anymore, which was not as useful as his fists and needle. No. I have to learn some sea demon battle techniques. Suddenly, Han Fei perceived that a shadow was spilling out of an undersea cave more than 60 kilometers away. Immediately, Han Fei's eyes glittered. A treasure trove. 3rd chapter. Asking for votes. Add chapters at around 7. Who told you that it's the way to find a wife? Also, a lot of things were useless when Han Fei died. They didn't work when he used them, so they were useless. Think about it, if I save Xia Shaochan, there will only be more and more problems later. Besides, resurrection requires both the big octopus and the host to be resurrected. 2 lives. Need monthly votes. Add chapters for the new leader at around 7. End of this chapter. Chapter 742. To the new leader, Maple, updated, the secret realms in the unknown place were actually very well hidden. Han Fei had been wandering here for a long time, but he hadn't encountered a decent secret realm. The secret realm in front of him was glowing, which was obviously quite extraordinary. Nine-tailed mantis shrimp, let's go. A man and a shrimp rushed away, and a large group of red fox fish passed by them. These days, Han Fei also found that not all the creatures in the ocean were fighting. Some of the creatures would regard the inferior man-fish as their own kind and wouldn't attack them. It wasn't just the red fox fish, but also the flying fish and silver scale fish. After a while, Han Fei had already rushed to the front of the secret realm. However, before he rushed in, he saw a half-mermaid and 2 red demons rushing out of the secret realm. After the half-mermaid appeared, it was startled to see Han Fei rushing at it head-on. Han Fei was also taken aback. It turned out that this secret realm had been explored and a half-mermaid had come out of it. Han Fei quickly stopped the nine-tailed mantis shrimp and clenched the embroidery needle, thinking, if there is only this half-mermaid and 2 red demons, I should be able to kill them. However, the next moment, another half-mermaid appeared, which directly dispelled Han Fei's idea. If he were in his normal human form now, he might have already rushed up. But now, he was an inferior man-fish, and his body hadn't fully adapted yet. In terms of fighting, he relied on brute force and little gold. If there was a half-mermaid heavenly talent here, he might be pressed to the bottom of the sea. The 2 red demons were about to attack, but they were stopped by the half-mermaid. The half-mermaid, chirp, Han Fei tilted his head. The other half-mermaid pointed at Han Fei. Chirp, Han Fei found that he couldn't understand it at all. What kind of weird language was this? Chirp, 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 and there was a string of bubbles when it spoke. Han Fei was wondering if his image had been ruined. So he immediately put away the nine-tailed mantis shrimp and the embroidery needle, gathered demonic energy under his feet, and considered whether to let Little Gold possess him and run away. However, in the next moment, a strange voice rang out in his mind. He didn't know how it happened, but it was imprinted in his mind, and he actually understood it. Inferior siren that has just awakened, don't be nervous. Submit to me, and I will teach you the siren language. Han Fei couldn't help feeling a little strange. In the past, all the half-mermaids he met were talking. He had never experienced this feeling before. The other party had somehow turned his spiritual power into a language and imprinted it in his mind. Han Fei thought for a moment and nodded quickly. The sirens had their own language. As long as he learned it, wouldn't he be able to blend in with the sirens in the future? It was said that the sirens had a lot of good stuff. If he just casually took some or killed these guys, he might be able to make a small fortune. Seeing this, the two half-mermaids laughed, but Han Fei found that their laughter was a bit weird. Relax your mind and don't resist. I will imprint the siren language into your soul. Han Fei was dumbfounded. You want to imprint it directly into my soul? Do I think your face is big? If you let go of your resistance, if the other party were to control you or do something to you, it would all be within the other party's control. Of course, Han Fei wouldn't be so stupid. Han Fei pretended to nod, ready to give them a fatal blow when they invaded his soul. Plus Little Gold's lightning blade that he hadn't used today, it shouldn't be a problem for him to kill the two half-mermaids. As for the two red demons, they were weaker than the half-mermaids, so Han Fei didn't think they could kill him. They were still hanging fishers. Even if this red demon was at its peak, he wasn't really an inferior man-fish. Just when the other party was about to release its spiritual power and Han Fei was about to fight back, swish. Another figure appeared, and Han Fei subconsciously stepped back. Not because this person had just appeared, but because he knew the female half-mermaid opposite him. Yuji? Han Fei was a little stunned. How could he meet Yuji in such a place? Shouldn't this guy be near the Scattered Stars Island? But in this damn place, even Little White had lost the direction of the Scattered Stars Island. How could he still meet her? The point was that Yuji's strength was not ordinary. So relatively speaking, the other two half-mermaids were probably also heavenly talents. With his current strength, he might not be a match for them. Now that Yuji had appeared, it was even more unrealistic for Han Fei to kill these sea demons by himself. If he were still a human, he might have a try. However, Yuji was a half-mermaid with a real divine weapon and was extremely powerful. In his current state, it was almost impossible for him to kill the other party. As soon as Yuji appeared and saw Han Fei, she exclaimed in surprise, "Where did this azure sea blue demon come from?" Han Fei didn't understand what Yuji was talking about, but he could see her surprise. But what Han Fei couldn't figure out was that in the eyes of these half-mermaids, ordinary inferior man-fish should be cannon fodder. Why was she surprised to see him? The other half-mermaid's face changed slightly. Yuji, this should be a newly awakened azure sea blue demon. However, first come, first served. He's mine. Yuji frowned. You want to take him? Is he willing? The half-mermaid said to Han Fei via voice transmission again, "Relax your mind. I'll teach you the sea demon language." Han Fei's eyes flickered, and his two big eyes were full of vigilance and confusion, which made Yuji puzzled. The next moment, when Han Fei felt a spiritual power about to invade his soul, he immediately blocked it with his spiritual power. The opposite half-mermaid staggered, and a trace of blood spilled from the corner of its mouth. "Bastard, you're courting death." The half-mermaid directly raised its harpoon and aimed at Han Fei. Han Fei knew that he couldn't beat it, so he'd better run away first. However, as soon as the half-mermaid raised its harpoon, it was slapped back by Yuji. You, are you deliberately deceiving this azure sea blue demon? You want to invade his soul and make him your guard slave? The half-mermaid who was knocked back frowned. Yuji, first come, first served. I met this Azure Sea Blue Demon first. Do you want to rob him? Yuji sneered. Who gave you the courage to challenge my authority? Yu paused, seemed to think of something, and reluctantly lowered his head. Before Han Fei ran away, he saw that they were fighting among themselves. Is this for me? I'm not Yuji's relative. Why is Yuji helping me? Yuji turned around, threw a jade slip full of demonic energy at him, and imprinted her words in Han Fei's mind, don't be fooled. You are an Azure Sea Blue Demon, and your status is not lower than his. Also, don't open your soul to others. This is a spiritual demon language. As long as you inject demonic energy into it, you can quickly learn the sea demon language. Han Fei was stunned. Azure Sea Blue Demon? What's that? Wasn't he an inferior manfish? How did he suddenly become an Azure Sea Blue Demon? However, Han Fei's guess was right. The half-mermaid was trying to trick him into opening his soul. How vicious this man was. It seemed that he had to find a way to kill him. Han Fei wasn't afraid that there was something wrong with the jade slip given by Yuji. At least with the demon purification pot, he wasn't even afraid of possession, let alone a trap. Han Fei held the jade slip and perceived it with his spirit. After a while, a brand new language seemed to appear in his consciousness out of thin air. In just a few dozen breaths of time, he had already mastered a new language. Yuji asked, do you understand now? You have just awakened. Don't trust others easily. This is the way to get into trouble. Of course, Han Fei understood. It seemed that the other party regarded him as a newly awakened sea demon. Han Fei was speechless. Can a newly awakened sea demon be as strong as me? Why don't they use their brains? However, Han Fei would rather they were stupid. At this moment, Han Fei bared his teeth and responded in a hoarse voice, I understand. Thank you. Yuji's eyes lit up. Ha! How did you manage to say it so quickly? And you can even say thank you. It seems that you are one of the stronger Azure Sea Blue Demons. Han Fei pretended to be vigilant. Azure Sea Blue Demon. What is it? Under the angry eyes of the other two half-mermaids, Yuji grinned. It'll take me a long time to explain. The Azure Sea Blue Demon was a type of sea demon that could grow its demonic meridians. Its potential was much higher than that of ordinary sea demons. Even ordinary red demons are not as good as you, unless they are crimson blood red demons. Even among the half-mermaids, no one dares to say that their potential is higher than yours. Han Fei pretended to be dumb and looked at the two red demons. Red demons? The two red demons looked unfriendly. In their opinion, Azure Sea Blue Demons were also ordinary sea demons. Why did they have a higher status than them? Yuji took 2 steps forward, and Han Fei immediately took 2 steps back. A half-mermaid said, Yuji, this newly awakened Azure Sea Blue Demon is not sensible. If you want to take him as your subordinate, you can just teach him a lesson. Yuji glanced at him coldly. Shut up. Han Fei was not stupid. The half-mermaid probably said that to warn him against Yuji. However, the half-mermaid had made it so obvious. How could he pretend that he didn't know anything? Immediately, Han Fei stepped back again, vigilantly looking at everyone including Yuji. Yuji frowned slightly, glanced at the half-mermaid again, and then took out a harpoon and a jade slip and threw it over. Here are your weapons and combat skills. We are all sea demons. If you want to leave, I won't stop you. If you want to stay, you can follow me. Don't worry, I won't ask you to be my slave. Han Fei took the harpoon with one hand and thought, I still have a golden harpoon. This one is not good enough. However, as a newly awakened sea demon, he fully showed his curiosity at this moment. At this time, Han Fei held the jade slip and looked at it. After a moment, a piece of information appeared. Impermanent golden halberd, demon level, high quality, introduction. This is a sea demon combat skill, divided into attack and defense. When attacking, it is like a star breaking the waves. When defending, it is like spinning water as a shield. Deduced art, unparalleled water-splitting halberd deduction cost, 0/2 million. Fourth update. Monthly votes. Crazily seeking monthly votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 743. When Han Fei finished reading The Impermanent Golden Halberd, he was slightly confused at first, but then he subconsciously spun the harpoon in his hand. Then, to the astonishment of Yu Ji and the others, a spinning white water shield was condensed in front of Han Fei. The harpoon was spinning very fast, making the shield look like a high-speed wheel. The water splashed, which was quite beautiful. Yu Ji asked in shock, "How did you learn so fast?" Han Fei had already made up his mind when he spun the harpoon. Since Yu Ji said that he was an Azure Sea Blue Demon and on the same level as a half-mermaid, he certainly had to perform better. Anyway, he couldn't find the way to the Scattered Stars Island, so it was better to let Yu Ji lead the way than to wander around like a headless fly. Besides, Yu Ji was no ordinary heavenly talent. She must have a lot of treasures. If he could find a chance to kill her, he might be able to make a fortune. After learning the Impermanent Golden Halberd, Han Fei looked at Yu Ji and bared his teeth. "I'll follow you." A smile appeared on Yu Ji's face. However, before she finished laughing, she heard the half-mermaid say, "Yu Ji, we have a mission to carry out. We didn't find the Sea Demon Mountain, but we picked up an Azure Sea Blue Demon of unknown origins." "That's not good, is it?" Han Fei was stunned. "They're here for the Sea Demon Mountain." "Fuck you. It wasn't easy for me to escape from the Sea Demon Mountain, and you want to find me?" Yu Ji said coldly, Yu, do you think it's a problem for me to take an Azure Sea Blue Demon with me?" The half-mermaid clenched his fists. "Humph." Han Fei was stunned. "What's that?" Yu. How pleasant." Seeing Han Fei's shock, Yu Ji immediately realized that Han Fei didn't have a name yet, so she asked, "What's your name?" Han Fei secretly sneered. "My name is Han Fei. Kill me." However, Han Fei's expression was rather dull in Yu Ji's eyes. She smiled. "Well, I don't think you have a name either. Since you're following me, I'll give you one. How about dried fish?" Han Fei was stunned, as if thousands of iron-head fish were running in his heart. "What fucking dried fish? Thank you so much. You're the dried fish. Your whole family is dried fish." Seeming to satisfy Yu Ji's bad taste, Yu Ji immediately said generously, "You gone, you will follow me from now on. I guarantee that you will be outstanding, but if you are talented enough to surpass ordinary half-mermaids, there is a certain chance. If your demonic heritage evolves again, it's not impossible for you to become a half-mermaid." Han Fei sneered in his heart. "Evolve again? If I want to become a half-mermaid, I can do it in a few days. However, you won't be able to see it. If there's a chance on the road, I'll kill you." Shwa shwa shwa. Suddenly, a few more half-mermaids and red demons rushed out. Han Fei counted carefully. Including Yu Ji, there were 7 half-mermaids and 7 red demons. At this moment, the half-mermaids also noticed Han Fei, and someone couldn't help but ask, "Is this an Azure Sea Blue Demon?" Yu Ji immediately declared, "An Azure Sea Blue Demon who has just awakened is following me. Judging from his strength, he shouldn't be weak. He won't affect our search for the Sea Demon Mountain range." A half-mermaid frowned. "Why is there an Azure Sea Blue Demon all of a sudden? Are you sure it's just awakened?" Yu Ji nodded. "I just taught it the Sea Demon language. It can't be wrong." Someone nodded casually. "Since you took it, we'll leave it to you. However, you can take this Azure Sea Blue Demon with you." Someone laughed. "Yu Ji, although Azure Sea Blue Demons can grow their demonic heritage, have you ever seen an Azure Sea Blue Demon grow into an advanced demonic heritage?" Yu Ji nodded. "I'd love to." What do you want? Yuji was quite satisfied with Han Fei's performance. He followed Yuji no more than 30 meters away from her. He didn't follow the others, and he was even slightly wary of them. Yuji felt lucky that Yu didn't try to win Han Fei over but tried to invade his soul. Otherwise, this azure sea blue demon wouldn't have fallen into her hands. At this moment, a bunch of half-mermaids and red demons were gathered together, and Han Fei was 30 meters away from Yuji. Someone said, "Yuji, can you ask your azure sea blue demon to step back? Why are you following us?" Yuji said, "We're talking telepathically. He can't hear us. What are you scared of? Besides, we're looking for the sea demon mountain. Is there anything to hide? If you want to say something, just say it." Everybody seemed rather wary of Yuji, and Han Fei pretended to be a newbie. Han Fei seemed to be a bit silly, but he was eavesdropping. In terms of soul power and spiritual power, Han Fei was confident that nobody here was as strong as him. Someone said, "The treasures in this treasure trove are not bad, but I think we should give up on the sea demon mountain. There are countless powerful creatures in such a vast area. Half of the teams that set off at the beginning have perished. If we keep searching and run into powerful creatures, I'm afraid we'll all die here." Someone frowned. "I agree. The sea demon mountain has come to the clear conclusion that it was moved away by force. If it's not human beings, it must be a powerful creature in the ocean. Wouldn't it be easy for someone who can move an entire mountain to kill us?" Someone objected, "We can't be too pessimistic. What if it's an opportunity for us? The expert must have moved the sea demon mountain for a reason, right? What if the expert has already left? If we find the sea demon mountain range, we might get some unexpected benefits." Someone shook his head. "Why would the expert leave something for you after taking it away? Also, haven't you heard? Almost all the creatures stationed in the sea demon mountain are dead. The air of death enshrouds the land where the sea demon mountain used to be." Yuji pondered for a moment and said, "It must have something to do with the three weird sounds. The royal city has confirmed that it wasn't caused by human beings. The sea demon mountain must still be in this area. If we can find it, we might be able to get in touch with the super experts outside of the royal city. Then, the experts of the royal city will come to negotiate with us." A sea demon said impatiently, the royal city, they talk about the royal city every day. They don't even know where the royal city is. Right now, the sea demons in the front line think that the 10,000 Demon Valley is the royal city, and they've been looking forward to it. However, what will they think if they learn that the royal city is still far away? Han Fei listened to them with great interest. It seemed that the sea demons did have a royal city. The sea demon mountain used to be the front line of the sea demons. As for where exactly was the 10,000 Demon Valley, Han Fei didn't know. In the end, they came to a conclusion: they would search for another 7 days. If they couldn't find it, they would return home. Han Fei was lost for words. Those people were truly bold. If Chen Huangdian were here, they would all be killed. Han Fei was rather helpless. The sea demon mountain was already a mess of battles. When he fought his way out, the entire sea demon mountain had almost been drilled into a hole. Not just the spiritual stones, even the demonic stones were looted by the sea creatures. It was not hard to imagine the result. Many creatures went crazy and began a massacre. Once a battle broke out, it wouldn't end so easily. Han Fei thought that the battle might still be going on at this moment. A moment later, everybody set off again. As it turned out, the direction they came from was exactly the direction that Han Fei was running. Han Fei couldn't help but look awful. He wondered if he should find a chance to slip away. He had thought that he could find his way home by following Yuji. However, those people were seeking death by running to the sea demon mountain. Why did he run away? It was because the sea demon mountain was still dangerous. Yuji looked at Han Fei and frowned. "Huh? You gone, you seem to be wary of this direction." Han Fei couldn't say anything at this point. He simply grimaced and said, "A lot of powerful creatures went there." The half-mermaids were stunned to hear that. "You came from there?" A half-mermaid stared at Han Fei. "Have you seen a huge mountain that's more than 800 kilometers long?" Han Fei shook his head. "No, I dare not go there." A half-mermaid couldn't help but chuckle. "You're truly cowardly. Although you've awakened into an azure sea blue demon, you're still useless." Yu Ji snorted. "You sound like you were better than him when you were awakened," someone said. "Stop bickering." If a large number of powerful beings were heading to a certain place, then there would definitely be some unforeseen event. Let's hurry up. We should be able to find some clues. Even if it's not the Sea Demon Mountain, it must be something else, such as a treasure trove or an undersea chimney. The speed of a group of sea demons was much faster than that of a single person. In just one day, the group had killed 5 exotic creatures, 3 of which were level 50 and above. Han Fei also found that among these sea demons, in addition to Yuji, there were 2 other sea demons who had semi-divine weapons. Some of them didn't reveal their strength and couldn't be identified. On the 3rd day, everybody was in a hurry because they found that a lot of creatures had gathered in the sea up ahead. At this moment, the seawater began to hum and tremble. Everybody spread out their senses, only to discover that a large amount of orange water was drifting at them overwhelmingly. Before the red mist, a lot of creatures were rushing crazily at Han Fei and the others. Yu Ji and the half-mermaids all changed their expressions. Chapter 744. Han Fei didn't know what the bloodthirsty sesame shrimp was yet, but he knew that it couldn't be a simple sea creature since it scared the heavenly talents like Yu Ji. Yu Ji and the others had already begun to run at full speed like human-shaped missiles in the water. Han Fei was no exception. He was even slightly faster than the red demons. Huh? Yu Ji and the others were slightly surprised, as they thought that Han Fei couldn't keep up with them. When the red demons saw that their speed was even slower than that damn Yugon, how could they not risk their lives? Their position was already in jeopardy. If they didn't try their best, they would be sacrificed. Yu Ji was deep in thought. This Yugon runs so fast. Was he awakened from a creature that was very good at speed? The bloodthirsty sesame shrimp were much more aggressive than Han Fei expected. Almost all the regular creatures were running for their lives when the creatures crushed them. The shellfish at the bottom of the ocean all closed their shells. Some turtles used secret techniques to build protective barriers with rocks, before they fell to the bottom of the ocean and blocked themselves. Han Fei was lost for words. Were these creatures exactly the same as the marching sea leeches? They sucked blood wherever they went. But at this moment, the marching sea leeches shouldn't be a problem for hanging fishers, right? They couldn't even break the protective barriers. What was there to be scared of? Yu Ji roared, "We'll run for an hour. It'll be great if the bloodthirsty sesame shrimp stop. If they don't, we'll take off." Hearing that, the half-mermaid named Yu asked, "What? You don't want the azure sea blue demon that you just tamed?" Yu Ji said, "I'll take it with me. Whoever brought the red demon here can take it away." Everybody was lost for words. Sea demons were not good at aerial battles in the first place. The flying skateboards were very costly, and they were carrying people. Did they want to die sooner than they could? Unfortunately, he did not manage to hold on for more than an hour. After running for less than 5 minutes, countless mad blood worms appeared out of nowhere and attacked him. Like blood-sucking sesame shrimps, they surrounded the group. Yu Ji and the others were lost for words. Someone cursed, "How did the mad blood worms get together with the blood-sucking sesame shrimp? Won't they devour each other?" Everyone was forced to change their direction. However, in less than 5 minutes, he found that countless dry-leaf starfish had floated over from nowhere. All of a sudden, the group of people could not think of any other way but to run up into the sky. Yu Ji shouted at Han Fei, "Come here." Han Fei also rushed up without hesitation. Actually, none of this was a big problem for him. If necessary, he could at least let Goldie possess him and fly to the sky. But these sea demons couldn't. Yuji grabbed Han Fei with one hand and her whole body shot out like a super cannon, almost reaching the speed of sound in the water. Bang! The water surface exploded, and a skateboard condensed under Yuji's feet and flew up into the sky. Just as the two broke out of the water, Han Fei felt an inexplicable stress reaction on his skin like he was being watched. No, I've been sensed. Han Fei was so shocked that he didn't even dare to release his senses. Other people didn't have such a feeling, but he did. This strange sensation made his hair stand on end. For some reason, he thought of Chen Huangdian. Immediately, Han Fei realized what was going on. Back then, Chen Huangdian said that he must die. Chen Huangdian didn't say it clearly, but his meaning was obvious. He saw the birth of the heavenly cicada, which threatened Xia Xiaochan's safety. What Han Fei didn't understand was that Chen Huangdian came so fast. From the birth of the heavenly cicada to Chen Huangdian's arrival, the two of them had no time to escape. Han Fei did consider that other people might come to him, he even wondered if someone had been here during the time of his death. But it didn't seem to be the case. Other people had come, but those people hadn't arrived yet. Han Fei immediately came up with an idea. Apart from everything else, the sea demons must have been discovered by other people. There was no telling how far his perception had traveled. Would he be killed if he ran there now? Han Fei immediately pulled Yuji. Hide in the sea, in the shell. Yuji replied, we can't hide. With the mad bloodworms, we can't run away even if we hide in the shell. Han Fei instantly became gloomy. Son of a bitch, he thought that he could escape with Yuji's help. But he was led back to the trap again. There was no telling who invented the flying skateboard, which was like a surfboard. It was controlled by spiritual energy or demonic chi and couldn't fly fast at all. Han Fei looked back, only to see a boundless red ocean that had been covered by the blood-sucking sesame shrimps. The other half-mermaids didn't even want to bring the red demons with them. Only 2 of them flew to the sky with 2 red demons. The other 5 red demons were still rushing in the water. As they were rushing, the 5 red demons were hit by the mad bloodworms. The crazy red demons were surrounded by the blood-sucking sesame shrimps. In Han Fei's senses, countless red shrimps only a few millimeters in size crawled all over the red demons. The so-called spiritual energy barrier was broken after only 10 seconds under the attack of the blood-sucking sesame shrimps. The blood-sucking sesame shrimps crazily crawled into the red demons' bodies from their ears and nostrils. In only an instant, the 5 red demons were drained. Han Fei felt that his blood was freezing. This thing was too horrifying. It had nothing to do with strength. How many of those creatures that were only a few millimeters in size could you kill if you went to the heavens? Not just Han Fei, but all the half-mermaids in the sky were horrified too. They weren't level 50 yet and couldn't fly to the sky. If they ran out of spiritual energy and demonic chi and fell, wouldn't they be dead? Immediately, Han Fei saw that the other 2 people who were carrying the red demons were suddenly shocked by a huge force and sent the 2 red demons flying. Han Fei's pupils constricted when he saw that. As he expected, they were all sea demons that were transformed from fish. How could they have feelings? The 7 red demons were all killed in an instant. Not a single one was left. Han Fei was ready to take action at any moment. If Yuji dared to leave him behind, he would stab her with his harpoon before he fell. However, out of Han Fei's expectation, Yuji didn't abandon Han Fei. Yuji said, "Don't worry. I can take you away as long as I brought you here." Han Fei rolled his eyes. "You can take me away? It's not even certain if you can leave on your own." After a while, as far as everyone's eyes could see, there were all kinds of group marine creatures. In particular, the blood-sucking sesame shrimps and the mad bloodworms finally collided. Tremendous mad bloodworms were drained, and the blood-sucking sesame shrimps went crazy and swept across every corner of the bottom of the ocean. Someone said telepathically, Yuji, leave the Azure Sea Blue Demon behind, or you will die too. Someone roared, Yuji, we still have our amulets. If we run back with our amulets and immortal seals, we might be able to survive. Yuji shouted, I brought him here. I'll take him back. Han Fei didn't say anything. He thought that if he were really an inferior man-fish, he probably would have been subdued by Yuji. This was pure charisma. There were such people among humans, and there were also such demons among sirens. Unfortunately, Han Fei was not a sea demon. Whether Yuji did it on purpose or not, he would never surrender to her. Han Fei thought that Yuji was not bad among the half-mermaids. After no more than a quarter of an hour, all the sea demons, including Yuji, took out spiritual fruits and swallowed them. This would last them for half a day. Someone exclaimed, something's not right. Why are all these creatures bursting out? Also, how can they last for such a long time? When everybody's spiritual energy was about to run dry again, everybody saw hope. The seawater became pure again. Yuji took a deep breath. Let's go back. Even if they used their butts to think, they knew that something big must have happened up ahead. Otherwise, why were so many weird colonial creatures running in the same direction? However, Han Fei sensed that a vague perception scanned him. Bam! Including Han Fei, the 8 of them were suddenly pressed to the surface of the ocean by a gravity. At this moment, the sea seemed to have frozen. None of them fell into the water. Han Fei cursed in his heart. It's coming. It's coming. He subconsciously glanced at the demon purification pot. It didn't disappear. Good. This time, there was enough spiritual energy. If there was an accident, he should be able to survive with the sky interception finger. Yuji and the other half-mermaids were dumbfounded. Why did they fall? The next moment, a phantom stood proudly in the air. It was a middle-aged man in a red robe, looking majestic. He just glanced at them, and all of them, including Yuji, lay on the surface of the sea, trembling. Of course, Han Fei had to behave the same as them. It was a phantom again. This phantom, with just a thought, was enough to suppress everyone. Yuji and the other half-mermaids were all trembling, and 2 of them were even talking to each other via voice transmission. One of them said, "It's a human being. It's really a human being." Another person responded, "I should have thought of it. It's ridiculous that King City said it was not a human being. Han Fei was just a quiet inferior man-fish." At this moment, his body was twitching. He didn't think a figure of this level would attack a few half-mermaids and an inferior man-fish like him. The human powerhouse asked casually, "Tell me, have you met a human being nearby in the past few days?" "He's not strong, probably about the same as you." Yuji said awkwardly, "My lord, we haven't seen any human beings here. We're just looking for a missing sea demon mountain." Yu said, "My lord, we haven't seen any human beings, but we've just captured an Azure Sea Blue demon." Han Fei almost wanted to hack this idiot to death. At this critical moment of life and death, you still want to stir up trouble? The middle-aged man scanned Han Fei several times, and Han Fei vomited a mouthful of blood. The middle-aged man shook his head and glanced at Han Fei in disdain. It seemed that even someone like Han Fei wasn't qualified to be questioned by him. His figure disappeared, but the pressure was still there. The half-mermaids didn't even dare to look up. Han Fei, on the other hand, quietly came to Yu with a harpoon. In an instant, the harpoon flashed coldly, and the harpoon pierced through Yu. The huge force stabbed Yu dozens of meters deep into the sea. It wasn't until Han Fei's aura burst out that all the half-mermaids realized what was going on. At this time, Han Fei had slipped back to Yuji and pointed the harpoon at Yu. It was impossible to kill Yu, who might have immortal seals on him, but it shouldn't be a problem to stab him with the harpoon. Of course, when Han Fei retreated, Yu whipped Han Fei with his tail and sent him flying. Chapter 745. All the half-mermaids were dumbfounded by Han Fei's actions. Even Yu Ji didn't expect that Han Fei would run to Yu Yu and stab him with his harpoon while the strong master was still breathing. Han Fei, who had run back with a dark face, was glaring at Yu Yu and saying, I'm not stupid. Everyone was dumbfounded when they heard, I'm not stupid. The half-mermaid was still in shock. What's wrong with this world? Yu Yu vomited a mouthful of blood and launched a violent blow, ready to kill Han Fei. However, he was blocked by Yu Ji. Yu Yu shouted angrily, get out of the way. Let me kill this azure sea blue demon. Yu Ji's eyes were cold. Didn't you know what you said in front of that super strong master just now? Yu Yu roared, he's just an azure sea blue demon. What is he? Yu Ji said coldly, Yu Yu, don't think too highly of yourself. Your identity and demonic heritage may not be higher than that of an azure sea blue demon. Have you forgotten Master Qixue Huan? Why don't you try to provoke him? Seeing that Yu Ji was defending him, Han Fei didn't feel proud at all. Did these bastards really think that the strong master had left? Are you kidding me? That kind of strong master could sense the world with a single thought. Maybe he was watching a joke at this moment. And Han Fei's real intention to attack Yu Yu at the risk of being attacked by the crowd was not to retaliate against Yu Yu, but to let Yu Yu slap him. Of course, that blow didn't hurt him, but it showed that Yu Yu was stronger than him. So, Han Fei was actually putting on a show. He felt that as long as someone was watching, this show was worth it. A half-mermaid shouted, I have a question. How can an azure sea blue demon that has just awakened withstand the pressure of such a strong master? Yes, before I realized what was going on, this guy had quietly slipped behind Yu Yu. He doesn't seem to be a newly awakened master. Even Yu Ji couldn't help looking at Han Fei. Just now, even she didn't feel that Han Fei had slipped away. This kind of strength really surprised her. Yu Ji looked at Han Fei. You gone, how did you withstand the pressure of a strong master? Han Fei was still staring at Yu Yu. I'll be fine after vomiting blood. All the half-mermaids were stunned by Han Fei's words. When they saw Han Fei vomiting blood just now, they all thought that Han Fei vomited blood because he couldn't bear the pressure. However, from the looks of it now, this fellow was actually able to dispel the pressure of a powerhouse by vomiting blood. What a smart azure sea blue demon. Tens of thousands of kilometers away, a middle-aged man frowned. Interesting. It seems to be an azure sea blue demon that was awakened by a smart creature. Humph, but no matter how smart it is, it's just an inferior sea demon. You must be dreaming if you think that you can become an expert through the growth of the spirit vein. This middle-aged man just paid a little attention to them. Soon after, he muttered, what a good technique, crossing the sea with the heavens and concealing the mysteries of heaven. That human should be dead. In fact, he had released as many as 22 doppelgangers at the same time, and their range of control was 100,000 kilometers. This meant that there were 21 other teams being questioned at the same time as them. However, Han Fei didn't know any of this. At this moment, Han Fei hid behind Yu Ji, looking very vigilant. Seeing this scene, Yu Ji's eyes lit up. This azure sea blue demon seemed to be a bit special. Before it was awakened, it should be an extremely smart creature. And it was a creature that would take revenge. Yu Ji couldn't help thinking, it's true that the deeper you go into the sea, the more strong you will meet. Even the azure sea blue demon that awakened in the deep sea is so special. Suddenly, Yu Ji's heart trembled slightly. Could this Yugan be? Yu Ji shouted, okay, this matter has been settled. Yu Yu, don't say that I didn't give you a chance. If you frame your companions again, I will kill you myself. Humph. With the pressure of this powerhouse, everyone couldn't help but feel scared, so they didn't dare to explore further. Besides, they had encountered a human super powerhouse, which was enough for them to report back. Half a month later. It had been a little more than a day since they were last detected. Han Fei felt that the powerhouse should have given up and wasn't going to stare at them anymore. This made Han Fei secretly heave a sigh of relief. Where did Chun Huangdian and this middle-aged man come from? Anyway, they couldn't be from the Thousand-Star City. How could the powerhouse of the Thousand-Star City be so terrifying? Even after suppressing his realm, he could completely suppress Han Fei in a head-on battle. If there really were such a person, he would have wiped out all the sea demons in the unknown place. In the past few days, Yu Ji had been teaching Han Fei some simple sea demon fighting skills. At this moment, Han Fei was spinning the harpoon, forming a water shield. Not far away, arrows that looked like spears darted at Han Fei one after another. The arrows fell on the water shield, but as soon as they touched it, they were shattered by the rotating force. Yu Ji shouted on the side, "You gone, the impermanent golden halberd is not only good for defense. Try to penetrate the shell of the arrow heart shells with the skill of splitting metal and splitting water." Han Fei roared, waved his hand, and his whole body seemed to be rolling up and down waves, narrowly avoiding the attack of the arrow heart shells. On the harpoon, cold light flashed, and as Han Fei pointed the harpoon at the carapace of the arrow heart shells, it was easily penetrated. Yu Ji's eyes flickered. "Okay, that's it for today. You gone, you've made great progress." Han Fei couldn't help but want to roll his eyes at Yu Ji. Is killing an arrow heart shell something to be proud of? I have to play with you every day, killing this one today and that one tomorrow. However, on the surface, Han Fei grinned and pretended to be very happy to be praised. The other half-mermaids were a little jealous, and someone said, "Yu Ji, this azure sea blue demon is making progress too fast. Maybe he really can become your bodyguard." Yu Ji shook her head. "I never thought that Yugon would follow me. All sea demons are of the same clan. I'm just guiding Yugon." Someone smiled faintly. This kind of guidance is equivalent to enlightenment. As his enlightenment teacher, Yugon will remember you for the rest of his life. Han Fei secretly mocked, "I won't remember you for the rest of my life. You named me Yugon, and you want me to thank you for that?" Yu Ji didn't reply but simply said casually, "We'll be back to the 10,000 Demon Valley in 5 days. If he was not mistaken, the Sea Demon Mountain Range should be where the powerhouse would descend. Just report this matter to the higher-ups." Han Fei had heard of the 10,000 Demon Valley many times. It must be a place where sea demons gathered. He wondered if there were powerful sea demons that could see through him. It seemed to be a gamble. In the past half-month, Han Fei had tried to find a chance to escape or kill those people more than once. However, those bastards' journey was rather smooth. They didn't even run into a treasure trove. All the living beings they encountered ran away early in the morning. Another day passed, and Han Fei finally found a treasure trove. Han Fei was so moved that he almost cried. Who said that there were as many treasure troves as there were stars in the sky? It took me more than half a month to recognize a treasure trove. It was a woodland of dead corals. The corals were only white and gray, and the whole area looked like a raised hill. Han Fei wouldn't have noticed this place, but he noticed a white lobster. Judging from the flow of spiritual energy in its body, it seemed to be declining due to lack of spiritual energy. Han Fei's first thought was that there was a creature here that could absorb the spiritual energy in the bodies of living creatures. Secondly, there was a poisonous creature here that had killed all the creatures within dozens of kilometers. In fact, even the creatures that lived here were suffering from albinism. Hiu. Nobody paid attention to this place. There were too many similar places in the ocean. Who could explore them one by one? But Han Fei was rather tempted. He secretly controlled the void chain and whipped the white corals. Someone roared, "Wait a minute. Something's wrong here. There seems to be an anomaly in this dead coral land." Someone sensed it. I sensed it just now too, but it's gone now. Yu Ji said, "It seems that a treasure trove is about to appear in the dead coral land. Let's go look for it." Everybody was surprised that there was a treasure trove. Of course, they didn't rush back. They were already at their doorstep. What was there to be afraid of? Han Fei landed with Yu Ji, and Yu Ji glanced at Han Fei. You gone, don't stay too far away from me. Han Fei nodded. As an array master, Han Fei was quickly observing the terrain at this moment. With just a glance, he knew that there was a spirit-gathering array somewhere underground. Not only that, but it seemed to be mixed with evil arrays that could swallow life essence. Han Fei didn't notice it at first, but after searching for about 5 minutes, Han Fei found that his spiritual energy had dropped by 20 points. This was a very small number that ordinary people couldn't feel at all. If it weren't for the fact that Han Fei could see the data, he might not have felt it himself. Han Fei broke a piece of dead coral and licked it with his tongue. A half-mermaid laughed. Hey! You gone, you silly fish, can't you even eat dead coral? A half-mermaid laughed. This Yugon is so stubborn. I'm afraid he wasn't a smart fish before he was awakened. Han Fei ignored them. He found that the heaven spirit detoxifying insect in his body moved. Just then, Han Fei knew that there was a colorless and odorless poison here that even he didn't know about. Impressive. The spirit gathering array is set up here but is not discovered. There should be a strong seal underground. Where is it? The 3rd chapter. Asking for monthly votes. I'm wondering if I can take a break. I haven't finished the next chapter yet. Anyway, asking for votes first. It's a bit tiring. End of this chapter. Chapter 746. A quarter of an hour later. Han Fei found the problem, which turned out to be a poison overflowing from a crack in the bluestone material at the bottom of the sea. A half-mermaid said, "Are you sure this place is weird? I don't think it's a threat at all. Although this coral bush is dead, other creatures will still swim over, which shows that this is not a dangerous place." Yu Yu echoed, "Maybe we're overthinking. If there is a secret realm in the coral dead land, it should have been discovered by the 10,000 Demon Valley." Yu Ji nodded. Okay. If we still can't find it in a while, we'll leave. Han Fei sneered. Leave? Of course I won't let you leave. This secret realm is just right. It's poisonous, can absorb vitality, and has a large spirit gathering array. This shows that there must be a place where spiritual energy is gathered, a place where poisonous barriers are rampant, and something that can absorb vitality. No matter whether that thing is dead or alive, it's definitely not good for these people to go down there. So, Han Fei accidentally touched this bluestone. Kacha! The crack on the bluestone suddenly widened several times. The 7 of them immediately sensed it. Han Fei looked around blankly, not knowing what was going on. In the next second, Yu Ji arrived first, staring at the crack on the bluestone with bright eyes. Yu Yu glanced at Han Fei and then patted the stone. Crack. The crack widened again. Someone said in surprise, "There's something wrong with this stone. It seems to have a little bit of spirit-swallowing power, but it's very little, almost negligible." Someone glanced at Han Fei. "You gone, how did you find it?" Han Fei looked at Yu Ji blankly. I don't know." Yu Yu grinned. Sure enough, he was just lucky enough to encounter the bluestone. That's why the bluestone cracked. It's just a coincidence. Yu Ji also believed this explanation. After all, Han Fei only awakened as an azure sea blue demon hundreds of thousands of kilometers away. He must have never been to the coral dead land. If Han Fei had seen through the entrance of the secret realm, he wouldn't have been so confused now. Yu Ji hacked with her harpoon, and the bluestone was split open without even exerting any strength. Han Fei couldn't help but be a little speechless. Even if he didn't discover it this time, in less than a month or 2, this bluestone would crack on its own. However, this also surprised Han Fei. How long had this bluestone been here? It was actually so brittle, when the bluestone shattered, an inconspicuous round hole appeared in front of everyone. At that moment, Han Fei saw that his reserve of spiritual energy was reduced by 5 points. The eye of the formation is already broken, but the seal hasn't been activated yet. Clearly, there are more seals and restrictions below. Someone said, "You gone, you can leave first." Yuji glared at him. "Why don't you go down?" The man was speechless. "Yuji, aren't you being too protective of him? Even if you trained him to be your left and right guard, shouldn't he take the lead at a time like this?" Yuji frowned. Although his strength is not weak, he can't use it freely. "I'll go first." Han Fei stood in front of Yuji, blocking her way. Yuji was stunned. This was the first time that Han Fei had stood in front of her. Obviously, he didn't want her to take risks. Yuji thought, sure enough, only when you treat people sincerely will others treat you sincerely. However, what Yuji didn't know was that Han Fei wanted to go down because he wanted to get the treasures first and set up seals to kill as many as he could. If he let others go down first, how could he do anything to them? Han Fei's voice was indifferent, without a trace of emotion. "Wait for me." With that, Han Fei jumped into the seal without hesitation. After falling down, the first thing Han Fei saw was a piece of lime powder-like sediment. There were a lot of milky white stones and transparent underground rock crystals here. The long and narrow passage went all the way inside and nobody knew where it led. Next, Han Fei wanted to go back and see if he could get out of this seal. In the end, it was just as he had expected. Not even the power of traction could leak out. Sure enough, once people came in, they couldn't get out. Immediately, Han Fei grinned. "Fuck, I'm so bored. Sons of bitches, I'll kill you later." Han Fei had been paying attention to the loss of spiritual energy and found that the reserve of spiritual energy at this moment was dropping at the speed of 5 or 6 points per second. This speed was already very terrifying. If people stayed here for half an hour without spiritual fruits, the spiritual energy in their bodies would basically run out. TSK, not bad. Han Fei walked straight into the secret realm. Anyway, he couldn't get out, so he had an excuse to get out. But after they came in, if they couldn't stand it, it would be a good time for him to make a move. Going inside, Han Fei found a huge undersea cave with rugged rocks, all showing an unhealthy white color. Han Fei felt that the heaven spirit detoxifying insect in his body would move occasionally. Obviously, there was still a trace of poison in it. When Han Fei's eyes fell on the center of the undersea cave, his face darkened. What the fuck was this secret realm? This was simply a place to raise poison. In Han Fei's vision, it was a fateful poison grass. According to the Complete Collection of Spiritual Plants in the Infinite Ocean, the fateful poison grass was a strange poison that was divided into 2 states. One was when it was immature, called the fateful poison grass, which was extremely poisonous. It could not only erode the body but also the soul. Once touched, one would die in 3 days. Once eaten, one would die in 3 seconds. The other was when it was mature, called the fateful holy grass, which was extremely nutritious. Once eaten, one's body would become mysterious and contain infinite vitality, and it was even possible to break the barrier of the soul. And the one Han Fei saw now was not yet mature, but it was about to mature. Only the fateful poison grass that was about to mature would need a lot of spiritual energy and vitality to mature. It was probably for this reason that the fateful poison grass increased its demand for spiritual energy and vitality, which led to the exposure of this secret realm. However, Han Fei's eyes flickered at this moment. The fateful poison grass must not be touched. If he wanted to mature it now, it would take at least a few months. But how could he wait for this spiritual grass to mature for a few months? As for maturing, it was very simple. He just needed to fill it with vitality and nourish it with spiritual energy. Han Fei couldn't afford to raise this thing by himself. However, there were still 7 half-mermaids and half-mermaids outside. It seemed to be quite cost-effective to use the 7 of them to mature this fateful poison grass. Of course, the premise was that these people didn't know what the fateful poison grass was. Otherwise, they might kill him and feed him to the fateful poison grass. The problem was that every spiritual plant had a guardian creature. After all, there were creatures everywhere on the seabed. During the growth of a spiritual plant from the spore state, some creatures would definitely benefit from it. Among them, the most powerful creature would gradually evolve into a guardian creature. But the guardian creatures would also fight and kill, and those who survived were always the strongest. Han Fei didn't see the guardian creature at this moment. The guardian creature of the fateful poison grass must not be simple. First of all, it had to be able to survive without relying on spiritual energy, then it had to survive without vitality, and finally, it had to be resistant to poison. This kind of creature was a monster in itself. Han Fei felt that unless he transformed into a human form, he might not be able to deal with it in his current state. Forget it. Let's find a way to get those guys down first. This secret realm was only as big as the seabed cave, with a radius of less than 3,000 meters. Although those half-mermaids might take the blame for him, they couldn't get out now. Even if they fell out with them, it wouldn't be a big problem. At most, he could bury the poison god in advance and kill them. Dumb. Dumb. The coral dead land was trembling slightly, but for Yu Ji and the others, they could still sense this movement. Yu Ji said, Yugan is knocking down there. He must be making sure that there's nothing wrong down there. Yu said, don't trust him. What if something happened in the secret realm? A half-mermaid said, let's wait a little longer. Anyway, the coral dead land is here. It'll be the same even if we come back later. However, there were also half-mermaids who disagreed. Later? If there's something in the secret realm, it won't be our turn in the future. Yu Ji ignored these people and stepped into the secret realm. As soon as Yu Ji appeared, she saw a harpoon stabbing at her. She subconsciously thought that Han Fei was ambushing her. But the next moment, Han Fei quickly put away the harpoon, looked at her, and said, I'm trying to get out. Yu Ji frowned. What's down there? Han Fei said, my spiritual energy is disappearing. Yu Ji's face immediately sank. She sensed for a while and found the problem. The spiritual energy in her body was indeed decreasing. She misunderstood Yugan. She thought that Yugan wanted to ask them to come down, but in fact, Yugan wanted to go out himself. However, it was too late. From above, one half-mermaid after another had rushed down. After a while, a half-mermaid roared, asshole, I knew we couldn't trust the Azure Sea Blue Demon. We're all trapped here. Yu Ji frowned. Survival is instinct. If we can't get out of the secret realm, do we just wait for death inside? Yu sneered. No matter what the reason is, we were tricked by the noise he made. If we can't get out, I'll kill this Azure Sea Blue Demon first. Hiss. Han Fei bared his teeth at Yu, also very angry. In fact, Han Fei was secretly happy. You can be arrogant for a while. I'll watch you cry later. First update. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 747. Although Yu and the others couldn't wait to kill Han Fei, they had already come down, and for the sake of Yu Ji, they couldn't do it. Since everyone was here, he might as well find a way to break the seal as soon as possible instead of arguing with Han Fei. However, when they saw the fateful poison grass, they all showed a shocked expression. Someone exclaimed, This is not a secret realm, but a spiritual plant barrier. Yu's eyes flickered. A spiritual plant that can produce a barrier. This is a rare treasure. Yu Ji frowned and glanced at Han Fei. Yugan, you came in first. Why didn't you pick it? Han Fei replied frankly, I dare not. When they heard Han Fei say, I dare not, everyone's fervent gazes were withdrawn. Just now, they only thought that this was a rare treasure. However, which spirit plant in heaven and earth did not have a living creature guarding it? Hearing this, Yu Ji nodded calmly. Fortunately, you didn't go. Otherwise, you might have died. A half-mermaid said, if the 7 of us join forces, no. If the 8 of us join forces, even if it is a powerful guardian, we will definitely be able to get rid of it. As long as we pick this spiritual plant treasure, the barrier will naturally be broken. Someone echoed, yes. No matter how strong the creature is, we can't defeat it with so many of us. Let's go. Yu looked at Yuji. What do you think? Yuji nodded. Okay, let's take it together. As for who this spiritual plant belongs to, when we return to the city, we'll divide it according to the effect of the spiritual plant. Yu grinned. Okay. That's what I was waiting for. With that, Yu looked at Han Fei. Just don't hold us back. Let's go. Han Fei thought to himself, I have to hold you back. But this sea monster can't do it. He didn't even know the fateful poison grass. But then again, this thing didn't exist in the Encyclopedia of Spiritual Plants. It could only be found in the complete collection of spiritual plants in the infinite ocean that he had deduced. With that, the 7 of them rushed to the fateful poison grass. Han Fei was speechless. Ignorant people are fearless. How dare you take the fateful poison grass? Are you tired of living? Han Fei was tempted, but even with the heaven spirit detoxifying insect, he didn't dare to take it. He wasn't sure if the heaven spirit detoxifying insect could block it. This was the fateful poison grass. According to Han Fei's estimation, he shouldn't be able to resist it. When he got it, the heaven spirit detoxifying insect would be the first to die. However, the fateful poison grass was about to mature, and Han Fei wouldn't give up. However, regardless of whether he could withstand the poison or not, at least he hadn't seen the guardian yet. Han Fei was not invisible at the moment, so he wouldn't rush up stupidly. Han Fei followed Yuji, vigilantly looking around. Whoosh! Just as the 8 of them were rushing towards the fateful poison grass, an ear-piercing sound suddenly erupted. A half-mermaid was suddenly whipped away like a cannonball. His body was directly embedded into the rock wall. Be careful. As soon as Yuji shouted, she saw half of a companion's body suddenly disappear. Then, the other half of the body started to swing wildly. It wasn't until half of the fish's tail flew out and blood splashed everywhere that everyone was shocked. Han Fei was horrified. Fortunately, he didn't take action just now. It turned out to be an invisible creature. Isn't it a bit too strong? Yuji shouted, UXN. The guardian creature is invisible and extremely strong. Yu roared, attack with all your strength. Immediately, Yuji, Yu, and a half-mermaid, at the same time, put on a golden battle suit, holding a golden harpoon, and white flames were burning on their bodies. As soon as Han Fei saw this, a faint red light appeared in his eyes. However, this invisible guardian creature couldn't detect the flow of spiritual energy. In fact, this guardian creature had no spiritual energy at all. Not surprisingly, this creature not only had no spiritual energy, but also no vitality. It should be some kind of undead creature. Only in this way could it appear and disappear unpredictably like Little Black. Although it had already attacked its opponents, no one could even find its position. However, in Han Fei's eyes, a vague huge figure appeared in his field of vision. That thing was completely transparent. He could only see the range of its water ripples, but couldn't see its body. But Han Fei secretly took a breath. According to his observation, it was nearly 100 meters long. It was ridiculous that those half-mermaids tried to fill the gap with numbers. In Han Fei's eyes, information emerged. Name: a ghost eel. Introduction: a hybrid product of the ghost serpent and the mystic shadow eel. It has awakened the bloodline of the ancient ghost. It likes to eat death energy and is afraid of vitality and soul attacks. It has sharp teeth of nothingness that can bite all weapons below the level of divine weapons. The power of its tail can reach 6 million kilograms. Level of 53 Quality a Legendary. It contains spiritual energy, has 0 points. Effect, inedible, collectible, teeth of nothingness, unabsorbable. Seeing this information, Han Fei was shocked. Isn't this fucking invincible? Without spiritual energy, its body is nothingness. As for the fear of vitality, is this a weakness? As for soul attacks, Han Fei was not Zhang Xuanyu. He hadn't practiced any soul attack techniques. At this moment, Han Fei couldn't help but feel a little regretful. Before, in order to find Xia Shaochan, he didn't learn the soul-splitting technique, and then he didn't have a chance to learn it. This meant that he seemed to be helpless against this legendary creature. Han Fei touched the ghost eel, and then his whole body was suddenly blasted out like a cannonball. Han Fei was directly embedded into the rock wall. You gone? Yu Ji was shocked. Through the vibration of the water ripples, can I vaguely see where this guardian creature is? In the rock wall, the corners of Han Fei's mouth curled up slightly. So what if I find it? That fucking huge body is nearly 100 meters long. Only a fool would fight it head-on. The creature embedded into the rock wall with Han Fei struggled to run out at this moment and let out a strange cry. It seemed to have fused with some companion spirit and a bunch of tentacles appeared on its body. Yu Ji seemed to have found the location of the ghost eel. She raised her harpoon and injected spiritual energy into the divine weapon. Behind her, a golden glowing water-shaped phantom burst out and pointed the harpoon at the ghost eel. It had to be said that Yu Ji could indeed find the location of this invisible fish by using the vibration of the water ripples. This method was effective. At this time, Yu Ji shouted, "Use soul attacks." Ordinary attacks have no effect on this guardian creature. Among them, a half-mermaid's eyebrows flickered, and a strange light rushed out, bombarding the ghost eel with soul attacks. Huh! It seemed to be a roar from hell. At the same time as the half-mermaid's eyebrows flickered, Han Fei saw a water shadow directly swallowed the half-mermaid. Crack! The half-mermaid was directly crushed, which made Han Fei's scalp go numb. 2 half-mermaids had already been bitten to death by this thing. At this time, the void trembled. The half-mermaid that had been bitten to death before appeared again at this moment, his face full of horror. This person roared, "This guardian creature is too terrifying. It needs to be killed by soul attacks." Everyone was speechless. "Do we need you to tell us that?" Yuli had just launched a soul attack, but he was swallowed by the guardian creature like a jelly bean. A half-mermaid summoned an associate spirit, which burst out a strange sound wave and rushed straight at the ghost eel. Huh! Bam! This person was whipped away by the ghost eel's tail and rolled on the ground for more than 500 meters. As soon as he stood up, his protective amulet suddenly broke out, and then the protective amulet burst into pieces, leaving only half of his body. Seeing this scene, everyone felt a chill in their hearts. How the fuck could they fight this thing? Were soul attacks useless? Who could withstand this big guy's attack? Yu was horrified. Damn, this guardian creature is more than level 50. Everyone, use all your secret methods and use spiritual attacks on it at the same time. Where are you guys? Han Fei thought it was not good for him to be embedded in the rock wall all the time. So Han Fei suddenly roared, used his harpoon to the extreme, and stabbed it into the void. Yu Ji shouted, "Idiot, go back." Bam! Han Fei was embedded in the rock wall again and vomited a mouthful of blood. However, he didn't care at all and licked his tongue in satisfaction. Okay. I've been whipped twice in a row. I don't have an immortal seal and I fought with all my strength. Everyone saw it. Let me lie down for a while. 2 half-mermaids who were about to be bitten to death appeared again through the immortal seal. At this moment, a strange white light flashed between the eyebrows of the 7 half-mermaids at the same time, which turned into soul attacks and blasted at the ghost eel. Hoo! Hoo! The rock wall was shattering, and the white underground crystal was broken all over the ground. Sure enough, Although the ghost eel was powerful, it still couldn't withstand the soul attacks of 7 half-mermaids. After this attack, it was seriously injured. However, in Han Fei's eyes, this ghost eel had already pounced on a guy who had just used an immortal seal. The man was gasping for breath and was about to counterattack again. However, suddenly, the spiritual energy in his body suddenly stagnated. At that moment, his mind went blank. Did someone use a sealing technique on him? Who among the sea demons cast a sealing technique on him? Before he could figure it out, the ghost eel bit him into 2 pieces again. Immediately afterward, a terrifying aura descended. This person actually had a dying strike. However, as soon as the terrifying aura appeared, it couldn't find its opponent at all. Therefore, the dying blow only lasted for a breath's time before disappearing. Yuji shouted, "Yuli, get out of the way." Yuli was one of the half-mermaids who had just used an immortal seal. Yuji felt that this ghost eel must have a high degree of intelligence. In fact, Yuji guessed right. This ghost eel did choose to fight these 3 people. However, its target was not Yuli, but another guy. Puff! Han Fei's sealing technique was activated again. How could the half-mermaids expect this? Just as they were about to attack, the spiritual energy and demonic energy in their bodies stopped flowing, and they were immediately bitten to death. Immediately afterward, the frightened Yuli fled in panic because he couldn't find the location of the ghost eel. Yu Yu roared, "Don't run. Everyone, let's launch another soul attack." Just as Yu Yu roared, Yuli's body also stagnated and he was bitten into 2 pieces again. In the blink of an eye, 3 of the 7 powerful half-mermaid heavenly talents were killed, which made Han Fei very happy. Han Fei secretly said, "Good job, big brother. Kill that troublemaker Yu Yu by the way. I can help you." Second. Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 748. Han Fei didn't care about the 3 dead half-mermaids at all. However, the remaining ones were more difficult to deal with. How could it be so easy to kill them? For example, at this moment, Yuji's eyes turned white, and a soul storm rolled up in the seabed cave. The other 3 almost simultaneously burst out in amazing soul shock power. This surprised Han Fei. Could it be that all half-mermaids could use spiritual attacks? Although the intensity of their attacks varied, the fact was that they could use all of them. And among humans, there were very few people who could use spiritual attacks and soul collisions, including Han Fei himself. Except for the war soul art and the soul-splitting technique that he hadn't learned, he didn't know anything else. Of course, the ghost eel was not invincible. After being hit several times, even a legendary creature couldn't withstand such violent spiritual attacks. This was the 3rd time it was hit, and rocks shattered all over the ground. Yuji yelled, "Yugon, go grab the spiritual plant treasures. We'll stop this creature." When Han Fei heard that, he immediately felt awful. Do you know how poisonous that thing is? Me? I'll be poisoned if I touch it. If ordinary people don't have an antidote, they will die in 3 days. Are you kidding me? However, Han Fei thought for a moment. He didn't need to fight. No matter how weak the ghost eel was, it could at least kill 1 more. As for himself, Han Fei was dripping with blood all over. He struggled and climbed out of the rock wall. After rushing out, he rushed directly to the fateful poison grass. How could the ghost eel let Han Fei succeed? With a roar, its huge tail whipped over. Among them, a half-mermaid's back was shining with golden light, and a big water-shaped hand, clenched into a fist, smashed at the ghost shadow of the ghost eel. Bam! Boom! The huge force of 6 million kilograms directly slapped the half-mermaid far away, and nearly half of his bones were broken. However, Yu followed closely behind, slashing the ghost eel's tail with the golden harpoon. In Han Fei's perception, a small part of the tail had been split open. Wow, this Yu is quite fierce. Yu shouted, "Yugon, grab the spiritual plant treasure quickly." If you dare to make any strange movements, I'll kill you immediately. Han Fei rolled his eyes. Kill the ghost eel first. Anyway, I'm just a bystander. You want me to dig up the fateful poison grass? Hee hee, is there something wrong with my brain? Han Fei took the opportunity to stretch out a hand to the fateful poison grass. In the next moment, a barrier appeared. Then, without caring about anything else, Han Fei simply lay on the ground and twitched. Yuji shot out a bit of starlight to block the ghost eel's bite. Her whole body hit the rock wall, bleeding from her 7 orifices. But seeing that Han Fei was twitching, Yuji immediately shouted, "Not good, there's something wrong with that spiritual plant." Han Fei struggled to get up, only to lie down again. Then he said with difficulty, "There's poison in Han Fei's body." The heaven spirit detoxifying insect had already moved. A streak of gray mist had already been dragged in front of it, and it was happily devouring it mouthful by mouthful. Han Fei, on the other hand, lay beside the fateful poison grass, feeling that the spiritual energy and vitality in his body were being devoured bit by bit. He was speechless. Haven't the spiritual energy of Yuji and the others been exhausted yet? In such a fierce battle, the spiritual energy stored in their bodies should be almost exhausted, right? Sure enough, as Yuji shouted, everyone activated the secret method almost at the same time. Huh. Hum. In a milky white spiritual shock, a half-mermaid was hit by the head of the ghost eel beside Han Fei, and the barrier protecting the fateful poison grass was broken. The half-mermaid glanced at Han Fei lying on the ground and his face changed slightly. This thing is poisonous. When he looked at his hands again, he suddenly found that his hands were already gray and black. The half-mermaid roared, "Not good, it's highly poisonous, this thing is highly poisonous." However, it was too late. The ghost eel slapped Yuji and Yu away and bit at the half-mermaid again. With just one bite, it swallowed the half-mermaid. Han Fei felt his blood freeze. This ghost eel is really fierce. It fought 7 half-mermaid heavenly talents alone because it was not afraid of ordinary attacks. This strength was already extremely strong. Han Fei couldn't help but wonder, are all creatures above the legendary level so terrifying? If the 9-tailed mantis shrimp and little gold were level 53, it should be very easy for them to beat these people, right? Not to mention the 9-tailed mantis shrimp, he might be able to whip them to death one by one. As for little gold, he could kill 2 or 3 of them with a lightning blade as if it were child's play. See God's possession. A huge phantom of tens of meters high suddenly emerged from Yuji's body, holding a dazzling golden harpoon phantom, and in an instant, the ghost eel was nailed not far away from Han Fei. Han Fei was shocked. The ghost eel was poked and revealed itself. What kind of attack was this? See God's possession. What was the difference between it and the Sea King? However, Yuji didn't seem to be feeling well either. Her whole body was spurting blood wildly as if she had suffered a serious backlash. The half-mermaid who had just been bitten to death ran out of the void at this moment. He had used his immortal seal and his face was extremely ugly at the moment. Han Fei sighed secretly. Sure enough, a level 53 legendary creature like the ghost eel was going to be defeated in the end. It was not that it wasn't strong enough, but that it was already terrifyingly strong. However, its opponents were all heavenly talents, and each of them had 2 lives and could launch soul attacks or mental attacks. How could he win? No matter how strong it was, it couldn't withstand so many attacks. Another half-mermaid with half of its bones broken rushed over and stabbed at the ghostly half-mermaid. The golden harpoon plunged into the head of the phantom of the ghost eel. Yu vomited a mouthful of blood and said, "Okay, this damn thing is dead." The question is, what kind of spiritual plant is this? Why is its toxicity so strong? However, as soon as Yu relaxed and was about to walk forward, a sudden change happened. The phantom curled up and the ghost eel directly rolled up the 2 of them, and a terrifying power suddenly broke out. Puff! Cough, puff! Cough. At that moment, Yu didn't even have time to react and saw his two companions being rolled into meat patties. After making this last blow, the ghost eel stopped moving as if it was really going to die at any time. Han Fei's eyes flickered and he thought to himself, anyway, they are all ghosts, which should be invisible. I'll take them. Seeing that he succeeded, Han Fei immediately said to the ghost eel via voice transmission, "Big guy, I'm a good guy. I'll save you now. Don't resist. When the time is right, I'll help you kill these guys." The ghost eel trembled slightly and Yu didn't dare to rush forward but stood dozens of meters away and observed secretly. "I'll take them." Immediately, the huge phantom of the ghost eel disappeared out of thin air. This directly startled Yu and the seriously injured Yuji. When the other person ran out of the void, he immediately swooshed away from the fateful poison grass. Where are the creatures? Han Fei was speechless. There were only 3 of them left. Yuji was covered in blood and dying, leaning against the rock wall, panting. Yu and the other person were in relatively good condition. At this time, Yu, instead of studying the fateful poison grass, came to Yuji. He tilted his head and inserted a harpoon into Yuji's heart. Han Fei's pupils constricted. What the fuck is this? Yu glanced at the other half-mermaid and said, "Yu Fei, can you continue to tolerate Yuji? Kill her, take her sea-swallowing seashell, and you and I will rise." Yu Fei was stunned. This. Yuji has an immortal seal. Yu sneered. So what? She used the sea god's secret method in that blow just now, which consumed too much energy. Even if the immortal seal can protect her from death, it can't guarantee that her strength will recover. In the end, she is still extremely weak. Yu Fei's eyes flickered. What should we say then? Yu said coldly, she died in the battle. Yu Li and the others have all died in the battle. Do you think we can't find an excuse? Han Fei continued to lie on the ground, thinking to himself, this Yu is not easy to deal with. I'm afraid he has wanted to kill Yuji for a long time. The void trembled, and Yuji tried to run as soon as she appeared. However, another terrifying sea god strike broke out and directly nailed her to the ground. Yuji's eyes were a little unfocused. You are so cruel. Ha ha ha. Haven't you always been high and mighty? Haven't you looked down on me? You don't take me as a human being. Do you regret it now? Yu Fei held the harpoon, hesitating. He knew that at this time, Yu had almost no strength to fight anymore. Should he take the opportunity to kill Yu? However, whether it was Yuji or Yu, they both had dying strike. That power might be useless against the ghost eel. However, for him, he was almost unable to resist it. Yu looked back. Throw Yuji onto the spiritual plant barrier and poison her. Yu was not stupid. If he killed Yuji, it would inevitably trigger the dying strike. At that time, he wouldn't be able to survive. However, if he poisoned Yuji, then the dying strike might break the barrier, wouldn't it? Yuji was seriously injured and said with difficulty, You will be judged for killing your own kind. Bam! Yu patted Yuji's head with his harpoon. Who do you think you are? What happened to your usual high and mighty demeanor? I will step on your dead body and become one of the leaders of the new generation. Yuji was knocked out by Yu's harpoon. Han Fei was speechless. It turned out that the sea demons were not harmonious with each other. Sure enough, where there was intelligent life, there would always be competition. Yu grabbed Yuji's hair and dragged her towards the fateful poison grass. On the way, he glanced at Yu Fei. Smart people should know how to choose. Yu Fei immediately bowed his head. Yu Fei is willing to follow Lord Yu. Ha ha ha. Puff, while Yu was laughing, his neck was suddenly pierced. He glanced at Yu Fei, then looked down at Han Fei lying on the ground, and his eyes widened. Han Fei waved his hand. Are you surprised or not? Yu? Third Night Watch. Asking for votes. Monthly votes. Although it's the third night watch, don't panic. The story is very long. Take it slowly. In the recent critical period, everyone should try not to go out. More and more people are infected. End of this chapter. Chapter 749. Yu Yu was dumbfounded. This feeling of falling from the top made him feel as if he had been struck by lightning. How could this damn Yugon still be alive? Had this damn Yugon been pretending all this time? However, at that moment, he had already used the amulet. Therefore, he didn't even have time to dodge Han Fei's blow. Han Fei felt the void tremble and perceived that there seemed to be a strange force pulling Yu Yu out. Except for the last time he experienced the immortal seal, this was the closest Han Fei had ever felt the immortal seal. Ha! A spatial fluctuation. Before he had a chance to feel it, the spatial fluctuation disappeared. Of course, Han Fei knew that it was some kind of power of the immortal seal that dragged Yu Yu into a certain mysterious domain. Unfortunately, if he could master this kind of spatial fluctuation, would he be able to ignore the opponent's immortal seal and directly kill him? As soon as Yu Yu died, Yu Fei was shocked and wanted to escape from Han Fei. However, how could Han Fei let him do that? When Han Fei attacked Yu Yu, he had already locked Yu Fei with the void chain. Little Fatty took the opportunity to suck Yu Fei's limbs. Han Fei's harpoon had already been shot out. Terrifying power gathered, and in the blink of an eye, it had pierced through the ultra-quality battle suit on Yu Fei's body. Who are you? Yu Fei was extremely shocked. Han Fei's attack was too fast. At the moment when Yu Yu died, he was already bound. Are you fucking telling me that this is something that a newly awakened Azure Sea Blue Demon can do? Han Fei swam dozens of meters with Yu Fei on his head, and the golden seal slapped him on the forehead. Clang! Yu Fei felt his head explode. But this was nothing. The surrounding seawater turned into numerous water blades, directly rolling Yu Fei in. As for Han Fei himself, he had already taken back Nine Tails and Little Fatty and hid far away, in case there was a dying strike in this guy's body. Even if he could block it, it was unnecessary, right? Besides, at this time, the void trembled, and Yu Yu was about to come out. With a thought from Han Fei, Little Gold appeared. The moment Yu Yu came out, Han Fei looked at him with a smile. You're here. Bye-bye. Lightning blade. Sizzle. Swish. Yu Yu was dead. He didn't know why Yugon was so strong even before he died. A terrifying power burst out. Yu Yu was obviously not an ordinary person. The dying strike in his body was terrifying. As soon as Little Gold slashed out the lightning blade, Han Fei had already recalled Little Gold and ran to the entrance. However, the dying strike seemed to have locked onto Han Fei and was directly branded on him. Boom! The golden seal blocked in front of Han Fei, and Little Fatty attached to him. Han Fei was still blown away, feeling that his bones had been broken. Son of a bitch, thank goodness Little Fatty is there. But are dying strike and those things so worthless? Why does everyone have one? Han Fei withstood the attack and was slightly injured. He had underestimated the power of Yu Yushen, who was probably not much worse than Yu Ji. Cough, cough. After vomiting a little blood, Han Fei injected some spiritual energy into the unconscious Yuji's body. Not long after Han Fei spat out that mouthful of blood, it was drawn to the fateful poison grass by a force. At this moment, he felt that the vitality in his body was still flowing away. However, Han Fei didn't panic. Vitality was something that could be replenished. Forge the universe was full of nourishing spiritual energy. If he ate a little every day, he would be back soon. Besides, all the dead people's vitality was stripped away again, and their bodies were gradually drying up. As for Yu Ji, Han Fei first took out all the sea-swallowing seashells of everyone, including Yu Ji, took away all the good things, and then stuffed them back into the bodies of these people. Finally, Han Fei injected a trace of spiritual energy into Yuji's body. After doing all this, Han Fei thought for a while, picked up the harpoon, and hit Yuji's head hard again. Fine. You'd better wake up later. At least wait until the fateful poison grass becomes the fateful holy grass. Everyone's vitality was converging towards the fateful poison grass. After an hour, Han Fei could already smell a strong medicinal fragrance. Huh. It's poisonous. Han Fei discovered that the fateful poison grass, which was crazily absorbing vitality and transforming into a mature form, was actually releasing poison. Although the poison level was not very high, Han Fei wasn't sure if Yuji could withstand it. Han Fei didn't want Yuji to die. It was not that he was afraid of being chased by sea demons, but that he needed someone to take him out of here. Otherwise, he wouldn't even know where to go in the vast sea. Besides, Han Fei was very curious about the 10,000 demon valley they mentioned. As a sea demon, it shouldn't be a problem for me to hide in there for a few days, right? 6 hours later. Half of Yuji's hair was white, and her skin was a little dry and cracked. 6 hours later. Yuji's hair was all white, and her skin was full of wrinkles. Han Fei pondered for a while, and with a thought, his hair began to turn white. But how should he deal with the wrinkles on his body? While thinking, Han Fei hit Yuji's head hard again. After that, Han Fei stuffed a spiritual fruit into Yuji's stomach to replenish her vitality. After doing all this, he went to check the treasures taken from Yu and the others one by one. 1,000 caddies of spirit awakening fluid. It's useless. Keep it. Oh. 6,000 caddies of spiritual spring, only more than 6 million points of spiritual energy. It's still far from enough. Yo. Trivariant golden ginseng, this is a good thing. It contains a lot of energy and is suitable for deducing the void fishing art. TSK 30 high-quality spiritual stones. Why are you so poor? You are a heavenly talent. Is this all you have? Ultra-quality material. No. It seems to be more advanced than the ultra-quality material. This was Yuji's sea-swallowing seashell. There was a stone shining with purple light in it, called purple glow crystal, which turned out to be a material that could be used to refine divine weapons. However, it was too small, not even enough to make a dagger. Sea God's 9 consecutive strikes. Han Fei grabbed a jade slip, which should be the upgraded version of the sea spirit's 3 consecutive strikes that he had grabbed before. It had reached the heaven level, low-quality level. Han Fei thought for a while. He couldn't take everything, especially in Yuji's sea-swallowing seashell. He'd better leave the divine weapon material to her. There would be plenty of opportunities in the future. After Han Fei divided all the spoils, he got a total of 1,200 caddies of spirit awakening fluid, 19,000 caddies of spiritual spring, 360 spiritual fruits, low-quality spiritual stones, plus mid-quality and high-quality spiritual stones, and a total of about 16 million points of spiritual energy. As for the various materials, Han Fei basically didn't take any. He couldn't be a sea demon all the time. If he entered the 10,000 Demon Valley and killed a few people, he could get as many as he wanted. Not only that, Han Fei also stuffed some things from Forge the Universe into their sea-swallowing seashells. They were not garbage, but they were no different from garbage in Han Fei's eyes. However, Han Fei seriously suspected that these sea demons would choose to use the good things themselves as soon as they encountered them. After all, no matter how good the things were, it was safest to stuff them into their stomachs. Otherwise, it would be terrible if he lost in battle and it was snatched away by someone else. Han Fei calculated that the looting this time, plus the spiritual energy he had stored, totaled more than 52 million points. It seemed to be a lot, but in fact, it was still far from enough. If he wanted to deduce the void fishing art, he was still short of 48 million points of spiritual energy. This was far from enough. He had to leave some spiritual energy for himself, right? Han Fei glanced at Yuji, who was still lying on the ground. He wondered if she was out of her mind. If she wasn't, she would probably take him to the 10,000 Demon Valley since he was the only one who survived, right? In the city of sea demons, there should be a lot of good things, right? One day later. The fateful poison grass emitted a refreshing fragrance. Han Fei was overjoyed. He had already prepared a box containing a supreme-grade spiritual weapon and was waiting for it. The fateful holy grass, of course, couldn't be eaten now. This thing contained infinite vitality. If he ate it now, it would be full of vitality. When Yuji woke up, she would definitely suspect him. The boundary of the fateful poison grass was opened. Han Fei knew that this thing had matured and had changed from a highly poisonous thing to a great tonic. Han Fei picked this fateful holy grass without hesitation. However, a small piece of rhizome was left. This fingernail-sized rhizome couldn't be underestimated. It was rich in vitality. Then, Han Fei looked around, only to find that all the sea demons had been turned into real dried fish. Han Fei smacked his lips in disgust. Suddenly, his body shook and blood gushed out. Then, he lay on the ground next to Yuji. After lying on the ground for a few minutes, Han Fei thought for a while, sent some spiritual energy to Yuji, and stuffed a spiritual fruit into her mouth. Then, Han Fei ran back to his original position, lay down, and killed himself. Okay. It should be almost done now. Let's see when you can wake up. Han Fei lay on the ground for another day. One day later. Yuji only felt a sharp pain in her head as if she had been whipped countless times with a stick. She felt that her bones were about to break. Yuji covered her head with one hand and suddenly found that something was put on her body. Looking down, she found that it was a foot, resting on her belly. This was Han Fei's deliberate action to prevent Yuji from forgetting him. She immediately flew into a rage and was about to kill this shameless man. But when she saw that it was Han Fei, his chest heaving up and down, pressing on her. Yuji froze for a moment and quickly got up. Yuji turned her head and looked around, only to find that the seabed cave was in a mess, and there were 4 dried fish lying on the ground in different shapes. Yuji covered her head and turned her head with difficulty, only to see that Han Fei's hair was white and there was blood around him that had condensed. But after all, Han Fei didn't become a real dried fish. However, she was a little surprised. Why did Han Fei's hair turn white? Then, when Yuji looked at her hair again, her face suddenly changed. Her hair was all white, and her skin was a little dry and cracked. Dried fish, Yuji pushed Han Fei. Seeing that it didn't work, she turned to look at the place where the poisonous grass was. As a result, she found that the spiritual plant had disappeared, leaving only a nail-sized rhizome, still exuding a little vitality. However, the vitality was no longer strong. After a careful examination, she found that there was strong lightning sweeping here. She couldn't help frowning. How could there be lightning power here, and it was so strong? However, Yuji found that Yu was not here. Where was he? Suddenly, Yuji's body turned cold, and she gritted her teeth and said, Yu, how dare you betray the clan? Asking for votes, end of this chapter. Chapter 750. Han Fei pretended to be unconscious for a while, and it wasn't until half a day later that he slowly woke up. The first thing Han Fei did when he woke up was to ask, I'm not dead? Yuji was sitting cross-legged to recover. The few remaining roots had been eaten by her, which replenished her vitality. Hearing this, Yuji suddenly opened her eyes. You survived? Since you didn't die at that time, did you see anything? Han Fei pretended to have a headache and was confused for a long time. It seems that some creatures got in from the outside and fought with Yu, and then I don't know. Han Fei was not stupid. Yuji and the others definitely had life tablets. Yu's death couldn't be hidden. Since he couldn't hide it, he had to have a reasonable explanation. If Yuji didn't believe him, he would kill her. If Yuji could believe him, he would find a way to follow Yuji back to the 10,000 Demon Valley to eat and drink, and then wait for an opportunity to escape. Han Fei's plan worked. Now it all depended on Yuji's reaction. However, Yuji frowned. So, this is why you didn't kill me? No. Maybe he left in a hurry and left a small piece of spiritual plant treasure behind. That spiritual plant contains strong vitality, so you and I can survive. After explaining to herself, Yuji looked at Han Fei. Have you never seen an azure sea blue demon as lucky as you? Han Fei said slowly, pretending to be dead is a necessary means for marine creatures to survive, and at that time, I was seriously injured. Yuji immediately closed her eyes and felt it. Once again, she checked the shocking mark left by the thunderbolt. Very strong. Could you only resist the power of this lightning? Suddenly, Yuji saw a piece of scale fragment in the corner, which was scorched. Yuji frowned. Ha! You use scale. Is he dead? But his body is not here. No matter whether he is dead or not, let's go back to the 10,000 Demon Valley first. For 2 days in a row, Yuji and Han Fei shuttled in the sea, fighting various marine creatures. Han Fei found that when sea demons encountered some schools of fish, they would also run away. It turned out that the life of sea demons was not good. At this moment, Yuji was biting a sea clam with her teeth, which disgusted Han Fei. I'm here to look for opportunities, and you're feeding me this? Holding the sea clam in a daze, Han Fei heard Yuji say, You gone, why don't you eat? You don't like clams? Han Fei's eyelids twitched, and demonic chi spurted out of his mouth. Under Han Fei's careful control, the clam was consumed by demonic energy and cooked. Then, Han Fei went up and tore off a large piece. Although I don't eat it raw, when in Rome, do as the Romans do. Medium rare is a must, right? This is the self-cultivation of an actor. Yuji froze for a moment, swallowed the meat in her hand in a few bites, and said in surprise, a creature that can spit out demonic flames. You gone, it seems that you were not an exotic creature before your awakening, right? Han Fei bit the clam blankly. I don't know. Yuji smiled. Don't worry, you awakened late, but your strength is already at the high-level sea demon realm. Usually, as long as you master some combat skills and know how to absorb some resources, you can easily reach the peak of the demonization realm. Oh. Seeing Han Fei's silly look, Yuji smiled and thought to herself, this azure sea blue demon is indeed a bit silly. However, I don't know if I survived this time because of his help. Judging from the way he was following me now, I'm 80% sure that he has chosen me. Yuji thought that Han Fei shouldn't be an ordinary azure sea blue demon. His talent and potential were top-notch. If he is trained well, he will become a powerful warrior. After another 2 days, the two of them experienced many hardships and finally came to the legendary 10,000 Demon Valley. When they were more than 20,000 kilometers away from the 10,000 Demon Valley, a group of sea demons had already found Yuji and Han Fei. These sea demons all seemed to know Yuji. When they saw Yuji, they were particularly excited. Someone said, Master Yuji, I heard that something happened to you, so I have sent dozens of people to look for you. Someone followed behind Yuji. Master Yuji, I'm glad you came back safely. Someone asked, Master Yuji, didn't Master Yu come back? Someone looked at Han Fei. Master Yuji, who is this inferior sea demon? As soon as Yuji heard someone mention Yu, she was shocked. Yu, this bastard, took advantage of me and used my immortal seal. The reason why he didn't dare to kill me directly was that he was afraid of the dying strike on me. It was also thanks to this that he was able to survive. But that guy was so vicious that he tried to poison me with a spiritual plant treasure. Fortunately, other creatures broke in later. Otherwise, I would have been dead for sure. Yuji shouted, Get out of my way. I'm going to see Grandpa Yutong and then teacher. Han Fei was quite speechless as he listened to their conversation. All the sea demons were surnamed you. Why did they have such a name? Wouldn't there be many people with the same name? After a while, Han Fei was dumbfounded. Yuji commanded all the way, Yugon, go and inform Elder Yu Bo that I have returned safely. Han Fei was stunned. How the hell do I know Elder Yu Bo? But in the next moment, a half-mermaid shouted, yes, Master Yuji. Han Fei was speechless. How could there be someone with the same name as Yugon? Then, Yuji commanded again, Yugon, go to the fish settlement and bring me 5,000 caddies of spiritual spring. Hurry up. Han Fei was stunned again. Is there someone with the same name? Then another half-mermaid jumped out. Yes, Master Yuji. Yugon, go, yes, Master. Yugon, go, yes, Master. At that time, Han Fei almost fainted. Why the fuck are you all called dried fish? Can't there be someone who isn't called Yugon? Yugon, go back with me. Han Fei was thinking, only to find that Yuji was looking at him. Han Fei was full of question marks. Yes, so many. Yugon. Yuji smiled and said, our 10,000 Demon Valley has relatively few names, just Yugon, Yupai. Ue to Ue. Han Fei was speechless. You don't know many names, can't you come up with more? What kind of fucking name is this? With a shout, a pile of dried fish ran out. Who the fuck can tell who is who? Yuji said, when you shout, the last echo of your voice falls on the person you're talking to. Han Fei, when he first entered the 10,000 Demon Valley, Han Fei was shocked to find that this was really a large canyon, a winding canyon like a dragon mountain range. On the rock walls on both sides of the canyon, there were holes everywhere. Outside every cave, there were glowing vines or seaweed of various colors, rendering the entire canyon colorful, as if it was a strange and dazzling new world. In the open water, there were a large number of luminous creatures, such as luminous jellyfish, light bulb-like fish, starfish shining with fantastic brilliance, and so on. From time to time, Han Fei saw some sea demons swimming with creatures on their shoulders, some sea demons practicing harpoon combat skills in the water, some sea demons sparring with each other, some sea demons lecturing a group of sea demons, and some sea demons shopping on both sides of the rock wall. However, Han Fei didn't find any red demons or inferior man-fish here. As far as the eye could see, they were all half-mermaids and half-mermaids. When Yuji swam past with Han Fei, many people were looking in this direction, which made Han Fei uncomfortable. Yuji said to Han Fei, red demons and ordinary inferior man-fish are generally not allowed to enter the 10,000 Demon Valley. More than 2,000 kilometers away from the 10,000 Demon Valley is called the Blood Sea Valley, where red demons and ordinary sea demons live. Han Fei didn't speak and followed Yuji all the way. From time to time, half-mermaids and half-mermaids riding various creatures came and then passed by. When Han Fei followed Yuji to the bottom of the valley, he saw that the bottom of the valley was very prosperous. All kinds of caves were carved in various colors, hung with a variety of luminous creatures, and various names were written on the caves. For example, Yusen Weapon Shop, Yuwu Spirit Fruit Shop, Yugon Gourmet Shop. Outside some caves, there were even glowing rays welcoming guests. These rays could also release electricity. Blue electric arcs surrounded them, like the thunder in the night sky in sci-fi blockbusters. What's more, the shape of some caves was very similar to human buildings. There were plaques, doorways, thresholds, and even couplets. Han Fei seemed to have entered a world of science fiction. What impressed him most was that the half-mermaids especially liked things that glowed. No matter what kind of light it was, red, green, blue, or purple, as long as it could glow, they would use it as decoration. After swimming through this winding canyon, there was an incomparably large and deep pit inside. There were two extremely tall mermaid statues, which were at least 1 kilometer high. Each of the two half-mermaid giant statues was holding a harpoon in their hands, crossed with each other. They used 2 big harpoons to form a huge door. When Han Fei followed Yuji past, he found that he was even smaller than a thorn on the tip of the harpoon. It was conceivable how big this thing was. Further inside, he could see the giant cylindrical palace in the deep pit that was countless times larger than the snow god's temple. To be precise, it was not like a palace, but a circular building. One ring was connected to another, a total of 9 rings, and a large blank space was exposed in the middle, where the heads of 5 giant statues could be seen. Yuji lived on the top floor of the 3rd row inside the ring. Yuji took Han Fei and swam all the way. Many people scanned Han Fei with their perception. Han Fei was also a little flustered. Don't be exposed. Otherwise, he would be in someone else's territory and it would be hard for him to run away. However, this 3-transformation wondrous book was indeed a heaven-level, divine-quality secret method. Along the way, many half-mermaids greeted Yuji and didn't notice Han Fei's problem. Until Han Fei followed Yuji to her residence. The top cave covered an area of about 300 square meters, and there were barriers inside and outside. Yuji glanced at Han Fei. You stay here and wait for me to come back. Second update. Monthly votes. Wait a minute, I'm revising it. End of this chapter. Chapter 751. Han Fei was also quite surprised by Yuji's attitude. Yuji didn't seem to give up and intended to help him to the end. Did Yuji just want him to follow her? Han Fei entered Yuji's cave alone and then found that around the cave, there were all kinds of luminous seaweed and vines, and even some luminous shells flashing. However, sea monsters didn't seem to have the concept of furniture. In Yuji's cave, there was only a blue glowing stone platform, which looked like a large piece of emerald. Behind the emerald platform was a huge shell 5 or 6 meters in size. However, this shell was not alive. The shell was open and covered with some seaweed, which might be where Yuji slept. In addition to these, Han Fei saw a large tank of spiritual spring, a pile of pearls, and a pile of messy half-mermaid jewelry hanging on the rock wall. Is this where the half-mermaids live? Does Xia Shaochan also live in such a place? Han Fei suddenly grinned. Probably not. Didn't Chen Huangdian say? Xia Shaochan is Princess Pearl. The place where she lives should be much more luxurious than this. After all, in terms of status, Xia Shaochan was much higher than Yuji. Taking advantage of Yuji's absence, Han Fei leaned against the rock wall in the dark, closed his eyes, and began to study the soul-splitting technique. This battle with the ghost eel made Han Fei realize that there were many strange and extremely powerful creatures in this world. What if he faced the ghost eel alone? Would he be bitten to death by that thing? Although the war soul technique could also attack the soul, it would consume too much energy after all. Besides, one attack probably wouldn't be able to kill the opponent. The soul-splitting technique, in the final analysis, was a kind of soul-splitting technique. Its purpose was to split one's own soul, invade the spiritual world of other creatures, and thus deprive other creatures of control of their bodies. After a while, Han Fei was surprised to find that the soul split by the soul-splitting technique could be taken back. This meant that he could temporarily separate his own soul and take it back after it was used up. Han Fei couldn't help but think, if I killed Yuji's soul, wouldn't I be able to pretend to be Yuji? However, Han Fei immediately gave up this plan. So what if he pretended to be Yuji? He didn't know Yuji's living habits, nor did he know her messy fighting style, nor did he know the people here. If he really took over Yuji's body, he would probably be seen through in a minute. However, since his saber had already been destroyed, wouldn't he have a second doppelganger if he gave some to the overlord? Half an hour later, Han Fei tried to split a little bit of his soul. It was probably less than 1,000th of his soul. However, when his soul was split, Han Fei felt that his head was pricked by needles. No, no. It shouldn't hurt. If Han Fei was a legendary creature, he would be much more advanced. The development potential of such a creature couldn't be underestimated. If he wasn't careful, he could grow into a commander-level figure. Yuji handed over a jade slip. Han Fei took it and scanned it with his perception. Sea Spirit True Scripture, Demon Level, High Quality, Introduction, a universal cultivation method for sea demons. Open up all the demon veins in the body. If you succeed, you will have a chance to cultivate a sea spirit body. Deduced art, Sea Spirit Codex deduction cost, 0/5 million. Han Fei glanced at it and his face was full of disdain. Only those who succeed will have a chance to cultivate a sea spirit body. I don't want this rubbish cultivation method. But Yuji said solemnly, this is the orthodox cultivation method for sea demons. During this period of time, try to cultivate. After a while, you will go to the front line with me. Han Fei frowned. Go to the front line? Isn't that going to the Scattered Stars Island? Han Fei couldn't help asking, where is the front line? Yuji said, the front line is the first front line between us sea demons and human beings. Human beings are an extremely hateful creature. They invade the sea, kill our people, occupy our territory, and plunder our resources. You must remember this. If you meet human beings one day in the future, you must kill them. Otherwise, you will be the one to die. Han Fei pretended to be puzzled. Are they very strong? Yuji seemed to think of something and then nodded heavily. Very strong. Human heavenly talents are extremely powerful. They can have more than one companion spirit. They can have two. Besides, human beings are very cruel and specialize in killing. When you meet human beings, you will know. Han Fei sneered in his heart. Do you think we human beings are like robbers? What? Did you eat your big yellow croaker? The sea is so big. You can't go anywhere else, but you insist on going against the Scattered Stars Island. But on the surface, Han Fei still nodded solemnly. Got it. Yuji nodded. Come with me. I have to cooperate with the investigation during this period of time. You can't leave, or you will die. Yuji took Han Fei all the way to the depths of the canyon where they first entered the 10,000 Demon Valley. This canyon, floor after floor, was full of sea demon shops. The place Yuji took Han Fei to was called Yuji Weapon Shop. Obviously, this was opened by Yuji herself. Han Fei was speechless. This woman can forge weapons? The moment he entered the shop, Han Fei sensed a slightly violent demonic chi and abundant spiritual energy. In the shop, there was only one half-mermaid. He seemed to be a little old. This person was holding a big sea clam and pouring magma-like liquid onto a stone platform. Han Fei's eyelids twitched. Isn't this a harpoon? On this stone platform, there was a harpoon model. After the rolling liquid was poured into the model, an array lit up, and the liquid was flowing, converging, and finally condensing in a strange way. Han Fei was speechless. Is this the refining method of a harpoon? Isn't this too simple? Seeing Yuji coming, the half-mermaid who was pouring the liquid grinned and said, Miss Yuji, you're finally back. I heard that a while ago Yuji swam to the refining table and waved her hand. Uncle Fu, I'm fine. This is my friend Yugon, an azure sea blue demon who has just transformed. He will be helping you for a period of time. Uncle Fu laughed. Oh, an azure sea blue demon. How long has it been since I last saw one in the 10,000 Demon Valley? Okay, it's good for him to help me refine weapons. I'm too busy alone. Han Fei really wanted to roll his eyes at this old half-mermaid. You're too busy. Just pour the materials into the mold. I can refine dozens of these things a day. Is there a problem? Yuji looked at Han Fei. You can refine weapons or cultivate here for the next few days. I'll come to you when I come back. Han Fei nodded. Okay. Yuji turned around and left in a hurry. Han Fei didn't know what she was going to do. But now he seemed to have sneaked into the 10,000 Demon Valley. Since Yuji was not here, it seemed that no one could control him. As soon as Yuji left, Uncle Fu's face changed. Hey! Boy, let me teach you how to operate the refining divine platform. The third chapter. Monthly ticket. There's one more chapter, I'll continue to revise it, end of this chapter. You're tuning in to the Blissful Bookshelf YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.